of the Exeter Planning Board, I find that due to the state emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. On September 25th, 2020, a public notice of this meeting was posted on the town website and on the bulletin board of the town office at 10 Front Street. As provided the public notice, the public may access the meeting online and via phone. Please note that all votes are taken during the meeting shall be done on roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting and who that person is, son, daughter, spouse, etc., which is required under right to know law. So I'm Langdon Plummer, chair of the Exeter Planning Board, and I'm by myself this evening. Nancy?
Nancy Belanger, alternate, and I am by myself.
Gwen?
Gwen English, and I am in the room by myself.
And Peter Steckler.
Hi, Pete Steckler, alternate. I am alone.
Aaron Brown.
Aaron Brown, in the room alone.
Jen Martell.
Jen Martell in the room alone.
Pete Cameron.
I'm here by myself.
You're Pete Cameron?
I thought I just answered.
You did.
Thank you.
Dave Sharples, our town planner.
Dave Sharples, I'm in the room alone.
Okay, before we begin, I know that John Gruder will not be here tonight, so I'm going to ask Peter Steckler to act in his place. So Peter, welcome to the board again.
Thank you.
Okay,
hey,
first item.
So Lang, it's Molly, and I am actually not alone. I am in the car with two of my children.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
That's all right.
know your name, but pardon. I apologize for missing you.
No, do not worry. I will hopefully be by myself in just a few minutes.
Okay, be nice now. Okay, well, our first order of business will be the approval of minutes of September 24th, 2020. And does anybody have any comments? When did I miss you in introductions?
Oh, no, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm just not speaking up because I don't have any corrections.
Oh, okay.
I'm remaining silent.
Okay. Anyone else? Not, I'm looking for a motion.
Hold on. I got a couple of, I'm trying to find it. Oh, okay. Pete Steckler and Nancy Belanger both have their hands up.
Okay, let's start with you, Pete. Steckler?
Okay, I think Nancy had her hand up first, but I'll just say, okay. I think that line 105, I can't recall for sure, but I didn't think that Jen had recused herself. I think she may have dropped off the call, and Nancy was assigned as active. So that was my only comment.
Yeah, I'll confirm that was, I didn't technically recuse myself. My computer recused me.
Okay. So we make that correction. And Nancy.
And that, let me see, I am unmuted. That was what I was going to say. In addition, that happened a few times, and it's kind of not noted. So it was noted at the beginning, and then Jen got back on. So it shows in the meeting minutes, but it doesn't show when she dropped off again, and you asked me to come back on again. And now I've lost my place. Anyway, I don't know how important it is. It just shows that I was there, and then Jen was back, and then I was back, and then Jen was back.
Right.
So Jen came back on page 6 of 7 under other business when we went into non-public. she'd returned by then.
Yes.
I just can't find where she dropped off and I came back on again, but I lost my spot. Bear with me, just one moment, sorry. So I believe it was between 155 and 158 because I seconded a motion that Vice Chair Brown made.
Yes.
Right, but I'm just not sure where Jen dropped off again, and I'm not seeing the notation. Well, I can see, yeah, no, I just don't see where I came back on, and I don't remember where Jen dropped off, so.
I think I just dropped off at the beginning, so that 105 line was correct. And then I think I came back during the voting, or like it was like shortly before the vote for minor sub-plan approval, like around 2:13.
Okay, I think you dropped off twice.
No, I think it was only once. And then at that point I said, you know, Nancy should continue
Yes.
being active
That's
on this
right.
since I wasn't here for most of it. And then, but then when we voted to go into non-public session, I kind of took over as the regular member at that point.
You are right, thank you.
So yeah, I agree that should be noted somewhere. I'm not 100% sure which line I re-emerged on. But maybe if there could be a note, like maybe under other business, like, you know, member Martell rejoined the meeting,
Yes. That'd be good.
Belanger became alternate or something like that.
Line 221. Somewhere in there. Yep. Okay. Anything else? Pete Cameron. Yes, sir. Pete, you're on. Pete Cameron, can you hear me?
Pete,
Is Peter taking a ride? If it's me,
Yes.
152. I'm not quite sure. I think I understand, but I'm not quite sure. I understand the very short sentence right in the middle of line 152 saying the best pit locations for the soils on the lot. I guess I didn't know we were having pit locations for soils, but maybe someone can help me with what that is, what that's saying there.
what he was saying was he was basically saying that's where they found where the best soils to accommodate septic leach field system are, and there wasn't any other good locations. So I understand what you're saying, and that's what he meant. I don't know if he said it exactly like that, but he was like, those are basically the best location based on soil type for the septic system.
Yeah, I guess it was the word pit that threw me, but
Well, it's a test.
It's a test pit.
Test pit.
Yeah, rather than the best pit.
Oh, that could be.
Well,
Yes.
then it wouldn't necessarily make sense.
Well, pit, I think, is.
Test pit
when we're
locations
talking
for the
about that,
soil.
Is a test pit, shortened by saying pit.
Okay, well, if no one else is worried about it, I'll back off.
Okay.
I mean, you could strike that sentence. I mean, it really doesn't, Pete's right. It doesn't make I understand it because I remembered it, but it doesn't make a lot of sense and it doesn't need to be in there.
Or you could drop the period after located and say, system can be located, thus the best pit locations for the soils. No, that's right. Take it off. Yep. Want to do that? Strike it. Okay. Ready for a motion? Please.
I'll move
Okay, Pete. Thank you.
their adoption.
Yes. As corrected?
Yes.
Noted? All right. Is there a second, please?
I'll second, Mr. Chair. It's Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen. All right, then I'll call for the vote, roll call vote, and I'll start with, let's see, Nancy, you're alternating. How about Pete Steckler? You start off, please.
Yes.
Aaron Brown.
Yes.
Gwen
Yes.
English.
Yes.
I just got you guys where you're supposed to be, and now they jumped the screen on us again. Jen Martell.
Wait, how do I
Yeah.
do this? Plug right into the thing.
Pete Cameron.
Yes, please.
And then it.
Let's see. Steckler, Aaron Brown have voted. I vote yes. Oh, Molly.
I vote yes.
There. I think that's everybody. All right, we accept the minutes as presented, as corrected. Thank you very much. All right, new business, public hearings.
Hold on, just Lang.
Yes.
Lang, I don't know if you want to take this. Maybe Dan wants to, there's an attendee with a 701 exchange number that had their hand up. I don't know if it's legit or what, but is there any way, Dan, if you're listening, can you check with that? Can you see who that is maybe, or?
I've been looking into it. It seems to be a North Dakota phone number, but I can't find anything else about it.
Okay, well, we don't take, just to whoever has your hand up, we don't take public comments until public hearings on the planning board. There's not just a general public comment.
Right.
So, during the public hearing on an application, we may be able to, we call the hands. But I know it seems, it's maybe suspicious, but you never know. But when we get there, I guess we won't, I'll leave it up to the chair, but I would wait until you have one of the public hearings.
Yep, sounds good to me. All right, so application of Phillips Exeter Academy for Wetlands Conditional Use Permit and site plan review for the proposed construction of a new 60-bed dormitory on the school campus. Subject property is located on Front Street and Tan Lane in the R2 Single Family Residential Zoning District. Tax map parcel number 72-209, and it's case number 20-12. And I'd ask Dave if the case is ready to be heard.
My opinion, yes.
All right, I'd like to have a motion, please, to open this case.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Gwen.
I move that the application of the Phillips Exeter Academy for a wetlands, wait a minute. Okay, for wetlands conditional use permit and site plan review for the proposed construction of a new 60-bed dormitory on the school campus. And I kind of started that sentence off wrong, but I moved to open this case. The subject property is located on Front Street and Tan Lane in the R2 Single Family Residence Zoning District, tax map parcel number 72-209, case number 20-12.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jen. So roll call vote again, please. So Jen?
Aye.
Gwen?
Aye.
Pete Cameron?
Yes, but you've lost. I got to get back to you.
Okay. Pete Steckler?
Yes.
Aaron Brown?
Yes.
Molly Cohen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So that passes. All right, Dave, let's start with you, please. Provide your overview for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, hold on. Still have the minutes. Okay. The applicant is seeking approval, site plan approval, and a wetlands conditional use permit for the application for the proposed construction of a new dormitory. The applicant submitted the site plans, applications, supporting documents on August 4th. These documents are enclosed for your review. There was no formal technical review committee, but it was reviewed independently by the town departments. and there was a TRC comment letter that was sent out. Underwood Engineer also reviews the plans and provided their comments in the first review letter, September 1st, 2020. The applicant provided revised plans in a response letter dated September 29th, 2020. And we've reviewed those, and they have satisfactorily addressed all the comments. And I did get a follow-up UEI second review letter, and they have no more further comments either. The applicant appeared before the Conservation Commission at their August 11th, 2020 meeting to discuss the Wetlands Conditional Use Permit. The Conservation Commission voted unanimously to recommend the Planning Board that the wetland CUP application be approved with the condition that the applicant provide an invasive plant management plan for the stream, wetland, and wetland buffer area. I did include that memorandum from the Conservation Commission's Chair, Andrew Koff, dated August 21st, 2020, stating as such. As you'll notice in the response letter dated September 25th from Altus Engineering, they actually did, the plans have been updated to indicate removal of invasive species in the wetland buffer area. The note has been added to the site preparation plan, et cetera. But if you do that, get that far, they've already gone to that, but if you do get that far, I would still just suggest incorporating that as a condition of the conditional use permit. The applicant also appeared before the Zoning Board of Adjustment at their August 18th, 2020 meeting and obtained a special exception for the private school use and a variance to exceed the maximum height requirements in the R2 zoning district. And a copy of the notice of decision and the meeting minutes were enclosed. The applicant is requesting several waivers, including a waiver from section 9.9.3 wetland setbacks, for which justification is outlined in their wetlands CUP application. And the waiver request letter dated August 4th, 2020 is also included for your review. In the event the board decides to take action on the application, I did provide motions for the waivers and the site plan and CUP, and will be prepared with conditions of approval should the board decide to take action on the application tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Mark, are you going to start the discussion, presentation from the Academy?
I am, Chairman Plummer. If you don't mind, I'll do a quick.
The camera is yours.
All right, thank you, and good evening, everybody. I'm going to just do a quick introduction of our team. It's a little easier as we I think it's easier as we do the screen, and then I'm going to give you some background. Then I'll hand it over to our architect, Jeff Gaunt, so you can talk through some architectural approaches, and then get into the details with Altus Engineering with Jeff Clifford and Corey Belden. But so I'm Mark Layton. I'm the Director of Facilities Management for the Academy, and with me tonight is my colleague Heather Taylor. She's our campus planner and architect. I mentioned Jeff Gaunt from SLAM Collaborative, who's the architect of record for this project. And then we have Kyle Zick from Kyle Zick Landscape Architecture, and Corey Belden and Jeff Clifford from Altus Engineering. And so they'll handle through the comments that Dave had already mentioned. So just some background. So we're pretty excited about this project. We haven't built a new dorm since, I think, 1969. So we're pretty excited about this opportunity. And the location that we have is can we share the screen by chance? Is that just
Yes, we've done that several times. Works very well.
Jeff, do you want to? There we go.
Does that work, Mark? Can you see the screen?
Yes. For me.
Yes, I can see it. So you have in front of you is a site plan, and so just for orientation, you see where it says Fisher Theater, and that's the location where we want to build a new dorm in place of that. Jeff, do you mind going to that one from the Front Street view?
This one?
Yeah, that's just to give you, I think it's a little bit easier to look at from the street. That's a very popular view. So you have Dow House on the left and what is now called Front Street Dorm on the right, and Fisher Theater. So you'll see in the package, you probably saw the graphics, and we'll show some tonight, where we feel like this is a really wonderful opportunity to build a new dorm. The dorm is going to be, as you mentioned, 60 beds. It's also going to have 5 faculty apartments, and that's going to incorporate Dow Barn that's behind Dow House, and which we've been using for storage for some time. So part of this project is to restore that barn, move it slightly, and so it will be connected to the new dorm, but and convert the use from storage to 2 apartments. But it's going to be more of a restoration. So, and that's part of why this project's exciting. It's going to look tremendous. And then when you see the elevations of what we want, actually, Jeff, if you want to just go real quick, the next slide. So this is just not going to steal any thunder from Jeff. He can explain it better than I can, but this is the rendering that we hope someday comes to life. And you can see in the background the proposed dorm. What we like about this is that it's going to create a strong community. We have students on both sides already. Dow House is relatively small, but Front Street has about 20 students. So adding 60, it's going to create a community over there. The kids love the outdoor spaces, and that quad that will be created will be, I think, tremendously important and popular. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure we communicate is why do we need the dorm? We're not increasing our student population. We're staying status quo. But what we've noticed since 2018, 2019 is that we really don't have enough beds for our target. As our overall enrollment is around 1060, 1066, and we try to do an 80% boarding and 20% day. So that comes out to roughly 850 students that we'd like to have on campus. Right now, we're about 836 beds, maybe a little less. And as we renovate our big brick dorms, we actually lose beds through code upgrades and accessibility upgrades. For example, Wentworth Hall that we just finished the renovation this summer, we ended up losing 3 beds in that dorm. So as we go through the campus, we have a pretty aggressive renewal plan for our dorms over the next 10 years. We hope to renovate 6. And so through that process, we're anticipating losing some more beds. So the beds that we add with this new dorm would really just get us back up to where we feel like we want to be at the 850. The other key part of this is that we hope to, if we are successful with funding for this through fundraising, we hope that that this will become a swing dorm as we renovate. Right now, our approach to dorms is that we do it every summer. And it's expensive, and it's a pretty significant impact to the community because we're working pretty much 24/7, 7 days a week in order to get the work done. So we're hoping using a swing dorm, we'll actually close the dorm for 1 year and work our way through campus. We feel like is a much more efficient way to do it. So that's our hope if we get to do this. Again, mentioned the location. We are pretty excited about the reuse of this site. Fisher Theater has sat dormant for a couple of years since we opened the Goel Center. And we feel like that this site gives us great opportunity for the dorm, but also at the lower level, we have space reserved for an academic program to be determined. But, and when you see the graphics, you'll see the lower level, the access to that point is really from the back side, from the north side by the science building. And there's a wetland area that's behind there that is actually used for the science department and part of their academic program. So it's got a really strong connection to that side of campus. And so that would be the lower level would be the academic program, completely separate from the residential life. And then what you see here is really the student life, residential life, and you see student rooms, and to the left would be apartments, and in the very back, there's more apartments. So as I mentioned, we're pretty excited about it. We started this about a year and a half ago through a housing master plan, and we've ended on this. We have some ideas going forward as part of our overall campus master planning that we're in the final stages of now. But this one, we've gotten permission from our trustees to pretty much go to where we are right now. We're going to finish design development, but then we're going to pause, and we're going to ask our institutional advancement team to really start fundraising for it. So we don't have permission, so we're not intending to start constructions in the summer. We're going to pause for that funding. We hope we're successful with our donors and our alumni, but that's where we're going to go next, as far as just making sure that we give our institutional advancement team some time. So I'll pause real quick for any questions on that part, and then if not, I'll just hand over to Jeff, and he can talk through some architectural elevations.
Okay, any questions at this point? See any hands, Dave?
Great. Well, then, if you don't mind, Chairman Plummer.
No, I'm having, okay. No, not from the board, still that one, Nebraska number.
Okay. All right, move on, Mark.
All right, thanks, Chairman. So Jeff, if you don't mind, Jeff Gaunt, if you don't mind walking through.
Sure. Thank you, Mark and Chairman Plummer and everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight. My name is Jeff Gaunt. As Mark had mentioned, I work with the SLAM Collaborative Architecture firm out of Boston and Connecticut. And we have been excited to work with Phillips Exeter on this great new project. Mark gave a really good background. I thought I'd just give you a little bit more information on the architecture of the building. It is 42,000 square feet on 3 floors plus a lower level. One of the things, though, that we worked real hard on was to try to get the building to appear to be 2 stories on this front street side. So the view that you're looking at now, it does actually appear to be a 2-story building, which is more in keeping with the adjacent buildings, both on the lot, the Dow House and the Front Street dorms that Mark mentioned, but also, within the neighborhood. And because of the site, the site actually falls, the grade falls down towards the north, so that it is a taller building, but we're able to sort of hide that within the grade. So it was a good design move, we think, and has enabled the building form to kind of fit nicely into the context. We did, as Mr. Sharples mentioned, we did receive a height variance. So the height of the building overall is still fitting within the context and also approved from the local zoning board. If I go to the next slide, this is the site plan. And as Mr. Layton mentioned, there's a new kind of critical mass here with this dorm that's contributing to the overall residential life of this space, and the creation of this new campus green is really important for the campus and for all of the students that will be living in all 3 of these dorms. The new dorm has an entry right off of that campus green and tied directly to Front Street. And then the circulation, as Mark mentioned, moves around the dorm and can come down a new set of exterior stairs to get down to the north. And so there's a real strong connection, both from Front Street as well as back to the academic campus at the north. And then there's some pathways that allow you to kind of get around the building. There's another secondary entry to the dorm on that north side. And that is a dormitory entrance. And then there are 2 additional entries, which are really more faculty entries. This one on the south this is the relocated barn that Mark had mentioned, and that will become a faculty apartment. And then this is that entry. And then on the western side is another entry for faculty apartments, which largely reside in this sort of end bar of the building. Let's see, the parking for the faculty apartment is along the west side and is accessed along this existing drive. So the existing drive that goes to the west of the Dow House will actually be extended past the barn and allow for additional parking on that west side. Bike storage is available at the main entry as well as at the secondary entry on the interior. So there'll be plenty of places for students to leave their bikes as they're entering into the building. Landscaping is provided. It's all kind of carefully thought out and to scale with the building, and will be, more questions can be answered on that by our landscape architect, Kyle Zick, if need be. And site lighting also, you'll see, is kind of adjacent to all the pathways and is consistent with the campus lighting standards on the Phillips Exeter campus. So just a few renderings that we have created just to give you a sense of the building. This is that Dow barn that we're sort of shifting back and connecting to the dorm. This is that green space with the main entry here. And you can see how kind of the building knits together well with the surrounding campus buildings. And this is the pathway back down to the north. Oops. This is a view as if you were coming through that main green right up to the main entry here. You can get a sense of the site lighting and some of the landscape elements that are included in the design. Our goal is to try to maintain the look of the historic barn. We really appreciate all the architectural details that are included in the barn. And so we're trying to maintain all of that and yet kind of change the use of the barn to a couple of faculty apartments. This is a view kind of coming around the southeast corner. There's a large bay window which opens into a commons room. So the main communal space for the dormitory will be here, where students can gather and study and hang out, and there'll be plenty of natural light there. As you come down that exterior steps to the rear of the building, the north side of the building, this is that academic courtyard that allows folks to come in from the campus side and access that academic portion of the lower level. This is going to be completely separate from the dormitory, just from an access point of view, but it was great to take advantage of the space and be able to connect some additional academic space to that academic side of this site. And you can see that a lot of the materiality that we've chose, it's a fiber cement siding and trim and a simulated slate roofing, and then Marvin windows, thermal windows, which is also a campus standard. But you can see how we sort of broke down the scale of this with the materiality and some of the form making of the roofs to really try to, the taller portion of the building, to try to break that down. Similarly on the west side as well. And so this is sort of the faculty zone, if you will. Not too many students will access this western side, and you can see some of the terraces that are dedicated to the faculty to have a little bit of outdoor space and privacy for them on that side. As far as the building plans go, this is a image of the first floor plan. So the main entry that comes off of that green space is here, and you come straight into a vestibule that's tied directly to that common room that I talked about. So, visitors can come in and kind of wait here until they're greeted, and they can be brought into the common room, and as well as connected directly to the stairwell that can bring them up into the dorm. The dorm is laid out with a double loaded corridor with dorm rooms on either side, and then a faculty apartment at the end of each corridor for access and oversight into the dorm. This is a view of that common room, so you can see there's plenty of natural light and lots of great space for students to interact and study. And this gives you a sense of each sort of a typical dorm room with some built-in counters and shelving, and again, lots of natural light into those rooms. On the lower level, portion of the lower level is dedicated to the dormitory support. There's a game room in the kitchen, laundry, and some storage. This is that bike storage that I mentioned as you come in from the north side. And then this red dash line sort of indicates where, the dorm is stopping and then the academic starts. And so this is that courtyard off of the back, and they access here a large lobby with some flexible space for different functions, and then 4 Harkness classrooms that will be heavily utilized by this academic program. And this gives you a sense of that lobby as you come in with a classroom in the background. And then this is one of the typical Harkness classrooms, again, sort of committed to trying to maintain natural light in each of the living spaces. This is the lower level, but still some natural light in here. This is the game room with the kitchen beyond. So, the palette of materials is warm and inviting, and, the materials are durable for a dorm, but again, a strong commitment to just, real good community within the residential life. So that gives you, I think, at least a quick overview of kind of where we stand on the, I should mention that the mechanical systems for the building is going to be a geothermal system, and that the building is, the envelope is, super insulated for warmth and energy savings. And so, sustainability is obviously an important part of the design process and obviously important to Phillips Exeter. So that was, an important part of what we did. So I can also pause and take any questions, but I think that gives at least an overview of the architecture for the new dormitory.
Thank you, Jeff. Again, I don't know if anybody wishes to ask any questions on the board.
No hands.
No hands. Okay. If not, then who's next, Mark?
Great. So I would say we'll hand it over to Altus Engineering and get into the site plan and the more detailed comments. If that works for you, Chairman Plummer.
Okay.
Corey, you want to take
Hello, everyone. This is Corey Belden with Altus Engineering, and I'm sharing my screen right now. So hopefully everyone can see this screen. Can everyone see what's the site preparation plan? So adding on to what both Mark and Jeff had said, that this has been a sort of long and exciting process. We started this project back end of 2019, and I think from the beginning we knew that there was going to be a need to engage the town. So back in January of this year, we had our first we had a meeting. We invited Dave Sharples, the code enforcement officer, fire department, to get together and kind of go through our first preliminary design scoping meeting, looking at the project, what were some of the issues going to be. We took that meeting, then as a team we went back into our internal schematic design phase and proceeded through that up until May, June. In June, when we had a pretty good design concept, we met again this time by Zoom, but invited the town back to go over our plan. At that point was really when we went through some design changes, particularly with some of the fire department comments on providing access and really getting into how they would access the site in an emergency with their engine trucks and their ladder truck coming around the site. I'll get into that a little bit later. But then we took that meeting, proceeded, and then really from there we've refined the design to get where we are today. So this site shows really what the bluish color is the existing Fisher Theater and the existing Dow House. One of the important pieces of the layout for the site was to hold that northern edge of the existing Fisher Theater for the new building, so as not to encroach any further north towards the wetland area that runs. There's really two types of wetlands that were identified up there. There's an intermittent stream and then a poorly drained soil area. So it was important not to encroach any further into that area. So we held that line, and you can see the orange area on this is really the new dormitory. In order to provide access around the side of the building to where is going to be our new parking lot. I'm going to go to the next slide. We're actually going to pick up and move the existing Dow barn. I think going through some of the local permitting and meeting with the HDC, I think everybody was very excited that the team and Phillips Exeter, the Academy, are committed to restoring the Dow barn and converting it into using it within the confines of the site and connecting it to the dorm and keeping that a piece of the area. So we're pushing it over in order to provide removing the access driveway that comes along where we'll be connecting this. There's an existing 11-foot wide driveway that runs along the west side of the Dow house. Again, one of that driveway is about 2 feet from the property line, and we'll be extending around the new Dow barn into the back to provide parking in the back. One of the waivers that we are requesting is for work within 5 feet of the property line. So this is the property line that we will be that we're talking about, where we're getting into that that we are going to be working very close to the property line. The new parking, we're providing 12 new parking stalls for the 6 apartments. There's actually one existing faculty apartment in the Dow house. Again, we're asking for a second waiver for the off-street parking. The town zoning section 5.6.6, there's actually a requirement that there's 1 stall for every 4 beds for a school's private dormitory. So in this case, really with a 60-bed student dormitory, the students, all boarding students are not allowed to have vehicles on campus. The only vehicles on campus are from day students, and they typically park over at the parking garage or near the athletic facilities because that's typically where they end their day. So the Academy, is comfortable. These 12 spaces will adequately serve the faculty apartments. There's down at as I believe Jeff had mentioned, there's a significant grade drop as you move from the south side of the building to the north side. There's about 12-foot drop going from that side, one side to the other. That on the back end, on the north side, allows for the walkout basement area and the courtyard, which is great. But for the parking, that's why we're proposing a retaining wall on the north end of this parking lot in order to minimize the slope. We really feel like we've tried to minimize it as much as possible by allowing about a 4.5% grade on this parking lot, but we really don't want to go any steeper with the parking. So we do have a retaining wall in this area. We can get into one of the items that we've discussed. Was a comment from the planning board and through the technical review was snow removal. We have an area next to the school that is available for snow storage. And certainly for smaller snowstorms, it could be plowed. We have about 8 feet between the edge of pavement and the property line on the west side of the parking lot prior to the retaining wall. But for larger snow events, we've met with the facilities management team and the folks that are going to be responsible for managing the snow. And it is anticipated that in a large event where the snow does get piled up, that they would come in with equipment to pick up the snow and put it over the wall. So we have provided a snow storage area there that will be, we'll have fiber rolls to protect it that would prohibit the sediment or sand, from going down to the wetlands. So that's we've added that to our stormwater maintenance inspection plan, and so that will be included. That'll be maintained yearly, cleaned before each season, and then checked at the end of the season as well. For solid waste removal, there's two tote storage areas, one on the west side and one on the east side of the building. So those for solid waste, we're anticipating each one allows for 6 totes, and the one on the west will primarily serve the faculty, and I believe the one on the east will primarily serve the functions of the dormitory. As I mentioned, we worked with the fire department to go through their access. Really, what in the initial design, our parking in this front lot was east-west parking, but we ended up rotating the parking to allow for the fire engine, which would be the first vehicle in an emergency to pull in. There's a fire department connection right at the connector between the Dow house, between the Dow barn and the dormitory. So they would pull into that area, pull out of the way, and by rotating the parking and allowing the vehicles to come into that area, that would allow the ladder truck to then move into the back. And if they did need a ladder truck for an emergency, they would park in this area. And we did receive confirmation from the fire department that they were agreeable to this plan. One of the other comments that we did have from the fire department, and we've added a fire hydrant, a new fire hydrant at the driveway entrance in front of the Dow house. The other closest fire hydrant is over behind the Woodbridge house. So again, provides another source for the fire department. The utilities, because we are primarily on an existing footprint of an existing building, most of the utilities are easily modified to serve this building. We have a sewer connection, existing sewer manhole on the north side of the building that we will be connecting to. Again, our existing water service comes from the over by the Forest Ball Music Center. We'll be connecting to the water line in that area. And we will be providing a new transformer and new generator for the building, both located on the north side of the site. As Jeff Gaunt did mention, the building is being designed as a very energy efficient building. This entire front lawn area between Front Street and the building will be geothermal wells. So I believe there's 40 total wells going into this front lawn area. We'll also be connecting to the existing steam system that's located behind the Forrestal, behind the Music Center building, and connecting back over to the new dormitory. Stormwater management. So this site was developed in 1972, I believe, was when the Fisher Theater was built, obviously prior to stormwater regulations. So this plan here, we are proposing to install 3 subsurface infiltration galleries on site. So these will be one in the front lawn area, the second one back under the parking lot behind the Dow barn, and a third one in the courtyard area on the east side of the building. In addition, we have 3 pocket rain gardens on the north side of the building, primarily collecting all of the roof runoff from the north side of the building. We have a infiltration leaching basin that's being installed on Front Street, or not on Front Street, but close to Front Street for a connection back to the Front Street drainage. And then also, one of the, it was within the conditional use permit, because we are working within the wetland buffer area. And again, a lot of this site is existing development that's within the buffer area, but our goal is really to minimize the impacts as much as possible. So all of our walkways and the patio area that are within the buffer line, which are shown on this plan in the green line, we're using porous materials for those walkways. So in the end, we're actually reducing the impervious area within the buffer by over 1,000 square feet for the project. This project does not require New Hampshire DES alteration of terrain permit, but really the site has been designed to meet all of those regulations as well as the town's stormwater regulations. We're reducing peak flows for all of the storm events, or we're going from about a 30% reduction peak flow in the 2-year storm event, about an 18% reduction in the 25-year storm event, and really the 50-year storm event, we're down to about a 5% reduction. But really managing all of the managing the storms, providing treatment on site where none currently exists, and really trying to improve the site as best we can. As Dave Sharples had mentioned, we met with the Conservation Commission back on, I think it was August 11th. We went through the site. They voted unanimously to approve it. However, one of their conditions was to remove the invasive species that are back in this wetland area. So we've included that. We've shown it on our plans, and we've also included it in our stormwater maintenance plan. Provided the guidelines that are typical provided by UNH stormwater, the UNH guidelines for removal of invasive species. So the Academy is committed to working towards this and removing the invasives that are located in this area, and it will be part of the annual inspection plan as well. So the site, although it does not require an alteration of terrain permit, it does require a new NPDES stormwater pollution prevention plan. So we will be required to file a notice of intent for construction, and there will be weekly inspections during construction to monitor sediment and runoff for the site. We did receive, as Dave mentioned, we went through the technical review process, and we received a number of comments. I don't really want to go through every comment, but one of the things that did come out of that, we've widened the driveway access at the front of the Front Street area to provide enough room for 2 vehicles to pass in case one is exiting and one is trying to enter at the same time. It narrows down to 14 feet as it does go around the Dow house, but then winds out to a 16-foot driveway as we do go back around the new Dow barn. We also modified some of the, revised some of the drainage calculations, did some lighting adjustments, but in general, I think I think it's a testament to the team that looks like we've addressed the comments adequately. There are still, I believe, 2 items that were left to the purview of the board. One was the snow removal, and there was a second comment to construct a loop water line that goes from the fire hydrant at Front Street and loops around to the connection where we're proposing to connect over near the music center. So unlike most projects when I get to the planning board, they're not quite often not mechanically designed. This project has been Wrist Frost Shumway has really already done a lot. The design for the project, they've had the water line flow tested, and it is adequate to provide the pressure that they need for the building and the fire suppression system. So currently we don't, we're not proposing to run that loop just because we do feel that the current pressure is adequate for the site. So I guess in summary, there's 4 things that we're looking for tonight from the board: the approval of the conditional use permit, the waiver, approval of the waiver for working within 5 feet of the property line, the waiver for the not meeting the off-street parking requirement. Again, we do feel that what is being provided is adequate for the faculty, and because students are not allowed to have vehicles on campus, there's no need to provide those parking stalls. There's a little, I guess, with the conditional use permit. There's also we had also requested a waiver for working within the buffer. They sort of go hand in hand, and then also our site plan approval. So I think with that, I'd like to turn it over. Well, I guess I can answer any questions on the site plan. If not, I'll let Kyle Zick from KZLA Landscape Architects answer any question or do a little bit of a presentation on the landscape architecture for the project.
Good. Any questions you see there, Dave? Anybody have? No? All right.
Well, wait. Someone put their hand up. Who is it? Pete Steckler.
Pete Steckler. You have a question, Pete?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate the detailed presentation and the drainage report, and that you guys are reducing peak flows from storms. So I guess my one question right now is about the snow storage area. And I just kind of wonder if it makes sense, and I don't know the answer to this, to make sort of a rain garden type of swale that connects into the area marked in the keynotes as number 5, so that you can try to get some more infiltration of that snow that you're going to be storing, as opposed to it. Maybe it naturally would work its way over to that area noted as number 5, but I just wonder if there's an opportunity to create sort of a rain garden swale that then connects into that area 5.
So the Area 5, and that's the outlet shown here on the north side of the retaining wall.
Yep.
Can you enlarge that section at all?
Yes.
Let's give that a whirl, please.
Is that better?
There we go. Yes. Yep.
There we go. Yes. So, so a lot of this, the snow, the way this area has been graded, is everything does drain down to the corner of the parking lot, into a catch basin that then goes into the subsurface infiltration system, this 2B, which is the subsurface. We have an infiltration system, which then outlets and then comes over to to this outlet. It would only really be in significant storm events where they need to come in with equipment to pick up the snow if there is a significant pile that's developing in this north area of the parking lot. They could pick that up and put it over the retaining wall. And then in this area, we've created a sort of snow storage area that we're surrounding it with fiber rolls, and actually sediment, a sediment barrier to prevent, if there is any, sand or anything within that snow, that it would be collected prior to, as it melts, and then would not deposit down into the wetland. And then this area could be cleaned out annually prior to each snow season, and then after each snow season as well. Not sure. Does that answer your question?
I mean, I understand what you're proposing. I guess I wonder if it makes sense to encourage some more infiltration there rather than, sort of sheet runoff by having more of a basin kind of feature rather than a graded slope. Just kind of thinking about, you're getting close to the wetland system and stream there. And at times we do end up with back-to-back snowstorms where you could end up with a pretty big pile of snow down there. And then, we get a 50-degree rainstorm, and a lot of that starts moving down towards the stream system. So I'm just trying to think, as you're getting pretty close to the system there, you might have a really big pile of snow. Some years we do, some years we don't. And is there a way to encourage a bit more infiltration there as opposed to sheet runoff?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do understand what your concerns. One of the concerns that we had with constructing something in this area, we are getting into this second green line here is the no cut, no disturbance for the wetland, and we did not. And then if you can see probably see the contours behind that, it is sloping off pretty steep. Behind that retaining wall. So we were trying to limit, what we did, our impacts, behind the wall and in that no cut zone. But again, we did feel that, maybe like you said, you don't know, some years you may get some, more significant storms than others, but predominantly, everything will be going into this infiltration gallery here with the, draining over. We're draining this. Actually, the wall on this side drains back to backwards a little bit, and then we're draining everything over to the catch basin. We've curved this whole side So we're trying to force everything into the catch basin as much as possible, and get that infiltration at that point on in this area, and trying to limit what we are doing in the wetland buffer area.
Okay, any other questions?
Gwen has her hand up.
Gwen?
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to unmute. While you have this slide up, pad number 5 is also a designated area for snow storage. And I'm just concerned that you also have the trash receptacles there. It seems like that's going to be a problem for snow plowing to have those in that location. I just wonder if you could explain that setup a little bit more.
So this, in this area, there is available lawn area for snow storage. We do have the receptacle, the tote storage also in this area, but really, we are providing, or there is an available space in this area as well for snow storage. There is also some storage on the west side of the parking area, about 8 feet from the parking lot to the to our fence line. So again, I think we do feel like for the 2-inch storms that we will be able to, the Academy can manage the snow fairly well in this area. It's just when you start getting into, some of the larger storm events, if they do have to bring in equipment, again, they can put snow in this area. They can plow along this area, but then once you start getting into the larger events, they would either put it over the wall, they could dump some, or they could, they could move it off site, or they can move it back, not even off site, but just move it back up. Again, I think what they would do is they would plow, they would come in and they try to get as much as they could around the building and up over into this area. We have a flush curb, they can plow again all into this area. We've talked to the Academy and to their facilities management, and I think they feel comfortable that they can manage the snow in this area. But it is a tight area, and there are some restrictions to what they can do.
Corey, maybe I can help a little bit just with that. I think so, Gwen. That's a small area, as you noted, for snow storage, and so the totes are that we do our own trash and recycling pickup. Right, we have a little cart, so we would obviously want to keep that clear. That's probably going to be an area where we would just push the snow from the sidewalks into that area. But to Corey's point, what we typically do in that area around the music building and Front Street is that we have to transport snow out of there. So if we get into those multiple storms that I think Peter had mentioned, we'll try to keep some, and it's usually just to clear the road, get it out of the way, but then we'll come back with our trucks and actually transport the snow out of there. So the areas that have been designated are for the small storms or for the quick, let's get a road clear, but then we'll come back and probably transport the snow out of there. And we do that now around the music building and Front Street House. And there just isn't enough snow storage there for that, especially when you get those multiple big storms that we know we'll get. So we're prepared to do that, to actually haul the snow out of there.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
On the board.
Dave, were there any more comments or?
No, there's no hand ups from the board. You might want to, if you open it up to the public, there are attendees. I don't know if they're here for this, but there's 8 people on the attendees.
Okay. Well, I was going to pass it on and let Kyle Zick from KZLA talk a little bit about the landscaping. So I will stop my share and hand it over to Kyle.
Okay, Kyle.
All right, let me just share my screen.
Thank you for your patience. Somebody's got to be last. Heather hasn't done anything.
All right, so you should see my screen now, which is a site plan rendering. And I'll keep this fairly brief and simple. The landscape approach, we feel like the site has a couple different personalities because of its context. The context along Front Street with that larger green space is more formal and traditional, similar to the other buildings along Front Street and similar to the Exeter campus in general, where it's characterized by specimen trees and lawn, very simple, and it accents and frames the buildings, but doesn't try to be overly showy, has restraint in terms of the amount of shrubs and that kind of thing. It's just a very simple approach. And that contrasts to the northern half of the building, which takes its cues for the landscape from the woodland area, the intermittent stream and wetland area. So there things are more naturalistic, species are all native, materials are pervious, and as I mentioned, deliberately more informal. So then in terms of some of the details, in the Front Street area, very simple desire line reinforced walkways from the Front Street sidewalk to the entry, to Brown, to Dow House, to Front Street. And then light fixtures line those walkways. Trees are deliberately off to the edges to maintain a central lawn, and that also is where the geothermal field will be. We're also restoring that cast iron and granite fence along Front Street. Some panels are missing, some need to be repaired, so that will be restored. Up against the building, there's a small entry space with bike storage because we know the kids want to store their bikes as close to the door as possible. At the rear of the building, we're connecting to the bridge that goes over to the Lamont Health Center and the Science Building and crosses that intermittent stream. As Corey mentioned, these paths are a pervious pavement. They look a little bit more naturalistic, like a gravel material. And then the planting in here is either reinforcing rain gardens or native planting that just kind of sets the context for the path that's more like a trail than a sidewalk. This courtyard outside of the academic buildings is a combination of a social space and also, kind of a forecourt for those interior spaces. There's places for outdoor seating, there's naturalistic planting, and so that relates more to this woodland and wetland area. You were just talking about the parking, snow storage on the west side of the building. So that's fairly straightforward in terms of the parking for faculty apartments and that kind of thing, and for access for maintenance. The only other thing I didn't mention, which did show up on the earlier renderings for these faculty terraces, we have 2 here on the west side that relate to the faculty apartments. So if you have any questions on the landscape, I'd be happy to answer those.
Gwen? Anyone?
I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear more about the green roof.
Yep. Yeah. So the green roof is something that we have proposed, and you'll notice that it looks almost seamless in plan view to the courtyard below, although there's a building line here, and that's a story different. Because this is on the north side of the building or the northeast side of the building, it wouldn't be a traditional green roof with sedum, a sun-loving plant. We're imagining it's a combination of different colors of stone and moss. And it's not a active green roof in terms of having users out there. This is something to be viewed from the building, the dorm rooms, and to relate to the courtyard, and also be part of that same palette or that same idea that it's a little bit more naturalistic, but in a designed way.
I like that idea. That's wonderful.
So Glenn, just one thing and clarify for that. That's one of the we hope to be able to afford the green roof, but that's something that we have as a bid alternate right now. And we have a green roof on campus at the health center. It's worked out really well for us. But this is the one that we have as kind of we hope to do, we want to do, and we hope to do it, but it's going to come down to budgets and that sort of thing. But so just want to point that out as far as why that's being shown on the documents, but that's not, it may not actually happen.
And this is Corey again, and just to add to that all of our stormwater calculations have accounted for that roof as not being a green roof, so being straight impervious. So if we are able to do that, that's just going to be another added benefit to the project, and reduction in impervious areas and reduction in peak runoff and flows coming from the site. So, but all of our calculations that were shown in the report and done, we're just accounting for that as being a standard roof.
Do you have any images, if in your color presentation you have images? I didn't see one for the east side that faces the music building. Do you have one for that? Or did I overlook it?
There was one at the lower level, almost like you're at the bridge looking toward the academic level and this facade.
Okay, I'll look again. I probably skipped over it. I'll look again. Thank you.
We don't have one that's in that little teeny in between. We also have the southeast corner that shows a lot of glass, which is really what the common room. Jeff showed the floor plans. So the whole sort of to the east of the main entry on that main level is just all common room. So there's a lot of windows around there.
I can show it again if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. I stopped sharing.
Can you see that now?
Yeah.
So this is the east side of the building, and with the academic court and some of the plantings, and so it's sort of looking from the northeast, not a straight east elevation, but it gives you a sense of that. And then
so the green roof would be, whoops.
Sorry.
The flat portions of that.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. I had for some reason interpreted this as a different part of the building. Now I understand.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Jen Martell has her hand up.
Jen, you're up.
Hi. I just had a question about the moss planting in that courtyard. I noticed it has misting irrigation, and I was wondering, in times like right now when we're in a drought, what's the contingency for keeping the moss planting alive if we can't be watering plants?
Well, I mean, it's actually not too much different than in natural conditions. The moss basically just goes into more survival mode, shuts down, and is able to kind of get through the drought until water is provided again. I mean, it's a more extreme situation on the roof there, but it actually should get not a whole lot of sun. So I think after initial establishment, it won't need much of that irrigation.
Okay. Is the moss only on the roof? I thought there was moss in the courtyard too.
We do have some in the courtyard, yep.
Okay. All right, is that the only area that's irrigated, or do you have irrigation in the lawn too?
We have irrigation in the lawn as well.
Okay. And that would just be shut off if there's a drought to conserve?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the board's part about any aspect? I just make the comment it's a handsome building. It's so delighted to see something that's architecturally compatible with the neighborhood. We've got a dormitory. It's I suppose an apartment building, but at any rate, never mind. It looks like a 50s dormitory. But just the combination of the colors and the architectural lines, and as described, I think, Jeff, by a lower roof line in the front. When the science building was built, some of the same kind of stuff. It was built in the dip, so it was tall, but it didn't appear to be as tall as the roof line ran kind of with the other lines that are there, if you ever look at that. So I'm very excited. It's going to fit in like, after a couple of years, the dust settles, you're never going to know that it's just beautiful. And combined with the barn, I think that's really neat. Plus fixing up that wonderful cast iron fence. There's one in front of Lincoln Street School. They keep patching up a little bit here and there. There are people who do that work. Yeah.
Thank you. Your hand up again?
I do. I've actually had one more question. And I want to echo Lang's comments that I think that the approach to the architecture is just really beautiful. And I think it's just going to be seamless. And ditto to the approach to the landscape. I think it was really thoughtful to keep the front more formal and the back more natural. And I think it really is a nice plan. I did have a question. I think thinking about Peter Steckler's comments earlier with the snow storage, can someone tell me like how high that retaining wall is that the snow is going to be kind of dropping over, and what the materials of that retaining wall is? I'm picturing, a front loader having to lift up the snow over a fence, and then they're going to be dropping it down, X number of feet, and the snow is just kind of going to want to like disperse everywhere with all of its sand and oils and other junk mixed in it. I'm not feeling super comfortable with that plan. So I guess my question is how high the wall is, the retaining wall.
Oh, this is Corey from Altus. It's about a 6-foot high wall.
Okay.
This is Jeff from Altus. This is Jeff from Altus. I had one more comment. One thing I think we could do that would be easy to manage is to add about 3 more rows of the core logs before we get to the wetland. And that would allow both supplemental removal of materials, but also every time water's going through there, it'll slow down. So you can get some infiltration. The soils we encountered at the site are quite sandy. So if the water's sitting on top of the ground, it will infiltrate. And one thing is we contacted the state and or their some of their sheets they published about snow storage, and they had one updated to this year. And what we're proposing is what is on the New Hampshire DES recommendations, but I think we can supplement it with some additional rows, and that would help. It is good to keep it at the surface because then we can clean it and see what we're running into. Sometimes if something's in the back corner like that and it's you're in a structure, it could be out of sight, out of mind, and be hard to maintain back there. But with being on the ground, we'll both have a sense of what's going on annually and also be able to maintain it.
Thank you.
Do you have a detail on your plans of what that, like when you were saying add more fiber rolls? I can't picture what you mean. Do you mean vertically add more or horizontally add more?
I don't know if Corey could call up the drawing a little closer, but right now what you see is like a rectangle, and the rectangle would be where the core logs would be. And what I'm saying is put to the north of those, following the contours, 2 or 3 more rows, so that it would provide even more filtration and infiltration, and it'll be, be able to be monitored. We wouldn't have to put in structures within that 25-foot wetland setback there, where it's not disturbed now. Like Corey said, virtually all the area that you see, gravel roadway there or driveway, and there's mechanical equipment. But we were trying not to go disturbed, and you could do that with the core logs without disturbing anything, even the roots or any plants or anything that are back there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, let's open to the public. Dave, are there any hands up in the public?
Not at the moment. There are no hands up in the public.
Okay, all right. Then we'll wait a little bit, see if there is anything. In the meantime, has the board got any other questions? And
if any of the 8 attendees that are visiting as public wish to speak on the application, please use the raise hand function. And if your hand's up, we will call on you to speak. In the meantime, Lang, Pete Steckler has his hand up.
Okay, Pete.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So back to the snow storage, maybe just given Mr. Layton's comment that, small storms will be stored on site, larger storms will be removed elsewhere, for the board to consider when making decisions about the conditional use and other site plan approvals, just to consider a condition of approval to not allow storage in that location. I think that's worth talking about when we get there. Thanks.
Okay. Molly, do you have any questions, concerns, thoughts?
I would echo what other board members have said about the compatibility with the neighborhood, and that's nice to see. I am following with interest Pete Steckler's proposal to think about not allowing storage on site. I'm having trouble sort of visualizing exactly how big the area we're talking about, and that would be helpful for me in this discussion later on.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, the snow storage that I might suggest we consider not allowing is just the dumping over the retaining wall into the wetland buffer area, just to clarify. Thanks.
Thank you for the clarification.
Chairman Palmer, can I respond, or can we open this up, or should I? Yeah, I think that's, I just want to address the concern about the snow storage in that area. I completely understand the sensitivity to it. I'm wondering if there's a way that we could come up with a compromise where we minimize the amount of snow storage that we put there. I just think it's going to be in a big event. It's, for us to at least use it for maybe a short time frame, if we want to put it. I'm not thinking out loud as far as how to address the comment. I just don't want to wonder if there's a way to not completely eliminate that area for snow storage. So I just want to raise that up as far as just a concern as far as how we would be trying to maintain that area during a big event or any event, any snow event. So But just want to raise that concern, I guess.
Thank you, Dave.
Just so we know, like, I mean, I believe I know, it's right by the Rip Rap outlet channel. I mean, can you bring that up and just kind of show the area we're talking about?
I'll bring it up.
Probably like 20, maybe 30 feet by, you know, like maybe 30 feet by, I don't know, 20 or so. Isn't that what we're talking about?
I think so, but let Corey do his magic with his mouse.
Like that, where that hatch box is?
Exactly. So what we're looking at, and you know, to add to what Mark had said, you know, if we could do anything to make it more comfortable to the board, certainly we met with the Conservation Commission and discussed this with them, and I think they were acceptable that we're following. We're trying to follow the New Hampshire DES guidelines for snow storage, providing a barrier and really preventing. I guess the concern, I guess, would be that sediment from the snow storage would then get into the run down the slope and then get into the intermittent stream area. So we are providing a barrier around this storage area that would collect any sediment from the melting and the runoff of the snow. As Jeff Clifford had mentioned, we could do an additional barrier. We could reinforce it, this area a bit more. It is steep, so it'd be hard to, I feel it'd be hard to really cut something. If we wanted to try to create an infiltration basin, we're going to be trying to create a flat area, build up a berm on the outside, and then we're going to be, tailing our slope down, and we're going to be getting really far down into that wetland buffer by trying to build an additional BMP treatment structure in that area, but I think we could reinforce that area. I think, as Dave said, it's,
it's smaller than 20.
It's about, the width of the driveway here is 22. We're looking at 20 plus feet by 15 feet. That really, would be, certainly you can't get it too far anyway if you have a loader that's picking it up and trying to push it over, get it over the wall. We have a number of bollards that are located along the this retaining wall to sort of prevent vehicles from so you'd be really you can't really get it too far. I'm saying you can't dump anything too much further over here. So I think you're sort of limited to that, about 6 feet, about 6 feet high and in about a 20-foot wide space for your snow storage. So, that's not going to cut it for really large snow events, but it would be maybe sort of those intermittent storms that you need to get a little bit off site and without having to come in, pick it up and off haul it to somewhere else on campus. This could be a short-term maintenance option.
Is there any material, geotech material or something that you could kind of line it with that would filter the sand, would separate the sand from the water that eventually the snow as it melts? I mean, if that's part of a concern of how much. But
yes, and that's what we're proposing, to put in a filter berm surrounding the
in itself. Yeah.
Surrounding that area, so that it would collect any sediment, any sand from the from the snow melt would be collected within that filter berm, trapped. Just it's a sediment barrier that would
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the design intent for that area, and that is what the New Hampshire DES, their guidelines say to do for this type of situation.
I can show that the rendering from that side too, if it helps the three-dimensional aspects. Just offering.
And Gwen has her hand up as well.
Gwen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hadn't intended to bring this up until we got to the parking waiver, and I know from experience that this is an area that really struggles with parking. And when people go to events at the music building, if students are in the student center, going to the grill, day students, that Tan Lane is always pretty well parked out, and Front Street for events is always parked out. So I was looking at this earlier and wondering, and I'm never a fan of having parking kind of in front of a building, especially these buildings, because they're lovely and they deserve to be looked at without seeing cars in front of them. But I'm wondering if you could put three parking spots in front of on the entrance road in front of Dow House, maybe allowing in heavy storms those maybe 3 parking areas in the new lot to be used as snow storage. So where you have the 4-inch maple tree between that and Dow House, like where the number 46 is there a possibility that you could have 3 parking spots there, maybe landscape it so that they're not highly visible? And then, as I said, in a severe storm event in the winter, maybe having those back parking spots available for snow storage, either temporarily or, well, just, I don't know how it would work out, but it's just a thought.
I'm sure Corey could design the spots. I guess from our standpoint, we would really want to try to avoid putting the parking spots, there. I really understand the concern about parking. We've made sure that we have the 2 parking spots per faculty apartment, which is what we've met, or that's our goal or standard on campus. One thing that has worked out really well is that we have a parking garage that we've actually asked a lot of the faculty to use in storm events so that we can easily plow the driveways. And, because the faculty living on campus don't have to drive to work, at least the ones that work for the campus, right? The spouses usually sometimes do. They'll do that, and because it's great for them to park their cars during a storm in the garage. And so it's a lot easier for us, and we've actually gotten into where we'll close some of these smaller parking lots for snow cleanup, and we'll tell people to move their cars and put them in the garage and that sort of thing. So I think with that being part of this, I think we've got a lot more flexibility now with controlling the parking lots. I guess just from our standpoint, I'll just go back. I would really like to avoid, that house is such a beautiful piece of property and building that to have parking in front of it, I guess that's where we would be coming from, is trying not to do that.
Well, I was going to ask, you have the parking, you certainly could ask them to put at least one of their cars in the garage, and then.
Yeah, and we do it, like you said, and then a lot of it is that they do that themselves. It's a great place to keep a car long term, whether it's in this hot summer or when it gets cold, that they do that. So that's been one of the, I guess, the good surprises about the parking garage, that we've been able to use it that way.
It's available. That's the point. Yep. It's
available, right? And it's the benefit of the faculty, because it's less they have to clean off, right? So, those where it works out well that way.
Yeah, the night before a storm, it fills up.
Yes, right. So with that happening, Gwen, that would take care of additional snow storage space need in a storm condition like that.
What about identifying? I mean, Lang, would it be better for us to identify more snow storage in around Dow House for that? I mean, we would be clearing this with a front end loader. I mean, what if we identified areas around Dow House to put the snow for snow storage instead of parking? We moved the snow to the front side of Dow House and identified that as snow storage.
That seems a little more palatable. I'm not excited about having parking in front of Dow House either. It just struck me as a potential spot for it, and visually it wouldn't be ideal, but it could serve a purpose. But certainly if snow storage, you're going to have a loader in there anyway, it seems, for a big storm. So if it could be moved on site, that would work.
Yeah, I think that's definitely doable. I mean, that's probably what. And then if you look at the south side of Front Street Dorm, I mean, that's where we do now for the music building. The little parking area between Woodbridge and Front Street.
Yeah,
that you probably noticed. We'll put snow in front of Front Street because of that, and that's because there's no place to put it. So, I mean, I think that's a doable for sure. There may be some landscaping we have to rethink about. I still would like to keep open the idea of some sort of snow storage, if the board would allow in the back, but just for the flexibility of having that, I guess, that flexibility. But I'll allow you guys to have that discussion.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Corey. There's a significant area behind the Dow House and in front of the dormitory where we had identified for snow storage. It's really that big, large area in the field. Yeah. And one of the things in this area we made all of this this sidewalk and curbing. This walkway is a flush curb. It's dual functional. This was, we had discussed with the fire department about access. We kept this flush in case in a extreme emergency, if they want to get a vehicle, they can actually drive along this pathway and get to the front door. But because this sidewalk or walkway in this area is flush with the driveway aisle, really can be plowed and accessed for snow storage. In this area, and could be it's behind Dow House, and out of sort of behind the building, out of sight, and again a very large area that is available.
Okay. Dave, have any folks in the public put up a hand?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure they've had the opportunity.
Yeah.
Aaron, did you have any questions at all? I haven't heard you tonight.
Looks like a great project. I have no issue with the proposed snow storage.
Okay. Pete Cameron, how you doing?
No, I think I concur with that. What Aaron has just said. This looks like a good project, and I think that we should be prepared to proceed forward, at least with the waivers.
Okay, let's go to the waivers then. Let's see, who wants to use the? Corey, are you going to do waivers or someone else have that task?
So would you like me to go through the criteria for each waiver?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. So the first waiver request is to section 9.3.64. It's working within 5 feet of the exterior property line. The proposed project site is an existing developed site. There's currently a driveway that extends along the west side of the site that serves a Dow House and existing Fisher Theater. The driveway is less than 2 feet from the property line and less than 11 feet in width in locations. The project will widen the driveway. The existing Dow barn will be preserved and relocated approximately 5 feet to the east to allow a 16-foot wide driveway to serve the north parking lot. And there'll also be a new fence along the property line. Therefore, the applicant is requesting to grade within 5 feet of the property line as shown on the plans. In compliance with Site Review and Subdivision Regulations, Section 13.7, for granting of the waiver, the following criteria are met. Criteria number 1, the granting of the waiver will not be detrimental to public health, safety, health, or welfare, or injurious to other property. Work within 5 feet of the property line is criteria number 2. Work within 5 feet of the property line is unique to this site because the existing site was developed within close proximity to the property line. This is unique to the property and not applicable generally to other property. Criteria 3, because of the physical improvements of the existing developed site, it would be a hardship to the owner if strict adherence to the regulations were enforced. The driveway would need to be relocated and parking moved to the south lawn area of the site. Criteria 4, the granting of the waiver will not be contrary to the spirit of the intent of the regulation, as the existing driveway is within 2 feet of the property line. Criteria 5, the waiver will not in any manner vary the provisions of the zoning ordinance or master plan. Would you like to stop there and address this one, and then before we move on to the second one?
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe we can get back to the full board on the screen. Let's go to the normal screen rather than shared screen. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, would you like a motion?
I sure would. Took the words right out of my mouth, Gwen.
After reviewing the criteria for granting waivers, I move that the request of Phillips Exeter Academy, Planning Board Case Number 20-12, for a waiver from Section 9.3.6.4 of the Site Plan Review and Subdivision Regulations regarding grading within 5 feet of the property line be approved.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Any discussion on that one? Then I'll call for the vote. Jen, I'm going to start with you. Yay or nay?
Aye.
Okay, Gwen?
Aye.
And Pete Cameron?
Aye.
Pete Steckler?
Yes.
Aaron Brown?
Yes.
And Molly is hiding behind another little screen on my screen.
Yes.
Okay. And I say yes. So that waiver is approved. Next is roadway perimeters, I believe. Corey.
Well, that was in the original application, but
that's not applicable. I determine.
Okay.
It's only an access. It's not an access aisle because there's no parking in that area.
That's right along. Parking space number. Waiver motion.
Yeah. So request number 2 for off-street parking requirement for zoning section 5.6.6. Section 5.6.6 indicates that 1 parking stall shall be provided for every 4 beds for schools/private dormitory. The proposed project consists of 60 dormitory beds. However, students at Phillips Exeter Academy are not allowed to keep vehicles on campus, boarding students, therefore requesting a waiver from section 5.6.6 for off-street parking. The new dormitory will have 5 faculty apartments, and there's 1 faculty apartment in existing Dow House for a total of 6 faculty apartments. 12 off-street parking stalls are provided on site for these apartments. The academy has the ability to manage parking, typically has a number of single vehicle faculty members. There's also surplus on campus available for faculty if needed. In compliance with site plan review regulations and subdivision regulations, section 13.7, for granting the waiver, the following criteria are met. 1, the granting of the waiver will not be detrimental to public safety, health, or welfare, or injurious to other property. The reduction in parking does not impact the welfare of the public, and emergency access is provided. Number 2, the proposed use of the site is for a student dormitory. For a private educational institution is unique to the property. Students are not allowed to keep vehicles at the dormitory, so the need for parking is reduced. This is unique to this site and is not applicable generally to other property. Item 3, the proposed waiver is not based on the physical restrictions of the property. Proposed parking will adequately serve the intended use of the site. It will be a hardship to the owner if the strict adherence to the regulation were enforced. Item 4, the granting of the waiver will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations. Adequate parking is provided for the site. And item 5, the waiver will not in any manner vary the provisions of the zoning ordinance or master plan.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Gwen.
I actually do have a question. In your presentation, it sounded like that this building may at some point be used for a classroom use. So that would involve having a teacher on site in that building. Was that taken into consideration, or would you? I know a lot of your teachers are living on campus, but did that take into consideration having somebody, if they're an adjunct professor or teacher, if they had to come onto campus, did that include parking potentially for them? Or is there another place where they might park that would be close to that?
Yeah, Corey, do you want me to answer that? Or, yeah, it was. Sure. Yeah, so you're correct. The parking is dedicated to the faculty that live in the dorms, into the new dorm, into the Dow House. So the faculty that would be using the classrooms, if that's what we're showing and that's what we intend to use, then they would park either behind the health center or in the Tan Lane parking lot. That's where they would be told to park. So the parking that we have shown would be signed for resident faculty only. So that's who would only be allowed to park there. And so the faculty would be told to park somewhere else.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering that. Thank you.
Okay.
Are you ready for a motion?
I certainly am.
Okay. Mr. Chair, after reviewing the criteria for granting waivers, I move that the request of Phillips Exeter Academy, Planning Board Case Number 20-12, for a waiver from Section 9.13.1 to permit less off-street parking than required in accordance with Section 5.6.6 of the zoning ordinance be approved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Pete. All right, we'll take a vote. Starting with you, Peter Steckler.
Yes.
And Molly Cowan.
Yes.
Pete Cameron.
Yes.
Jennifer Martell.
Yes.
Aaron Brown.
Yes.
Gwen English.
Yes.
And I vote affirmative also. That motion carries. What were guidelines, Corey?
So quick clarification with Dave Sharples. With the new wetland ordinance that went in. Is there still a waiver to section 9.9.3 wetland setbacks, parking and structure setbacks, or is that included in the conditional use permit?
It's now the conditional use permit criteria that needs to be addressed. There's no waiver anymore.
Okay.
It's just meeting the conditional use permit criteria.
Okay. So there's no additional waiver. So just the two are all we need.
Correct. So the wetland waiver guidelines, yeah, that's the conditional use permit. So I would suggest just going to the conditional use permit motion.
Okay, that sounds good.
We streamlined that and last year, and
right.
It's not a, I mean, it's the same criteria. It's just not a waiver, and the conditional use permit is just a conditional use permit. But it's the same process as it was before.
So I told we'll go to the conditional use permit, wetlands motion, or not motion, but presentation.
So, do you need me to address what are the 8 criteria for a conditional use permit?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. So let's see. Per Article 9.1.6b, conditions, the town of Exeter for zoning to be met for conditional use permit, that the proposed use is, first one, the proposed use is permitted in the underlying zoning district. This is for the wetlands conditional use permit. The project involves expansion of existing non-conforming use within the R2 zoning district. A special exception exists for the non-conforming use on the property. An additional special exception has been granted for the expansion of this use. So the use has not changed on the site. Item number 2, no alternative design which does not impact a wetland or wetland buffer, or which has less detrimental impact on the wetland or wetland buffer is feasible. Sites an existing developed site with an existing building. Site improvements and utilities servicing the existing Fisher Theater. The proposed dormitory will be in the location of the existing building to utilize many of the existing utility services. The proposed building will not encroach any closer to the wetlands. The proposed site will provide stormwater management and treatment with stormwater infiltration galleries and rain gardens to a site that does not have any current treatment and is therefore improving the site conditions and runoff to the wetlands. Item number 3, the wetland scientist has provided impact evaluation that concludes that the functions and values of the wetlands and assessment of the potential project-related impacts and concludes that the extent feasible, the proposed impact is not detrimental to the value and function of the wetlands or greater hydrologic system. Gove Environmental Services completed a functions and values assessment for the project that was concluded in the wetlands application and did conclude that the proposed project that it is not anticipated that the existing wetlands function or value will be impacted. And again, that report from Luke Hurley at Gove Environmental was provided with the conditional use permit application. If needed to be referenced, I believe I could bring that up. But we are certainly providing treatment and improving the runoff that's going to the wetlands. And again, as part of the conditional use permit, we're with our meeting with Conservation Commission, we're actually going in and going to also remove invasive species that are located in the wetland area. Mm-hmm. Item 4, that the design, construction, and maintenance of the proposed use will, to the extent feasible and minimize detrimental impact on the wetland or wetland buffer. The proposed site will provide stormwater management and treatment to an existing site that does not currently have any treatment. In addition to providing stormwater treatment, the walkways and patio areas in the buffer will be constructed of porous materials to reduce the impervious coverage. By using porous surfaces, the impervious cover in the buffer will be reduced by approximately 1,075 square feet. The combination of reducing impervious cover and providing stormwater treatment will minimize any detrimental impacts on the wetlands or buffer. Item 5, that the proposed use will not create a hazard or to individual or public health, safety, and welfare due to the loss of wetland or contamination of groundwater or other reasons. There are no direct impacts to the wetlands. The site is an existing developed site, currently has no stormwater management. Wetland buffer will be maintained and treatment will be provided to the new impervious areas. Function and value of the wetland should not be impacted by the project and will not create a hazard to individual or public health, safety, or welfare. Item 6, the applicant may propose to increase in wetland buffers elsewhere on the site that surround a wetland of equal or greater size and of equal or greater function or value than the impacted wetland. Due to the existing development on the site, and around the existing wetland, there's not an opportunity to increase the buffer. However, there will be additional trees, plantings within the buffer. The impervious area in the buffer will be reduced and stormwater treatment will be provided. In cases where the proposed use is temporary or where construction activity disturbs areas adjacent to the immediate use, the landowner agrees to restore the site as nearly as possible to its original grade and condition following construction. The vegetation will be reestablished at temporary impact areas and the construction of walkways will be restored to the original grades. And lastly, item number 8, that all required permits shall be obtained from the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, Water Supply and Pollution Control Division under NHRSA 485A 17, the New Hampshire Wetlands Board under NHRSA 483A, and the United States Army Corps of Engineers under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. There are no direct impacts to wetlands, therefore, project does not require New Hampshire DES permit under RSA 482A or United States Army Corps of Engineers permit required under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. The proposed project does not occur within 250 feet of protected shoreland as regulated under the Comprehensive Shoreland Protection Act, RSA 483B, and does not require a permit. New Hampshire DES Alteration of Terrain Bureau also concurred on April 30th, 2020, that the project does not require an AOT permit. Therefore, there are no state or federal permits required for construction of this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Then I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, real quick, if you don't mind. I'm in favor of this conditional use permit, again, with the condition that no snow storage is allowed over the retaining wall, because criteria 2 says that there's no alternative available. We've heard repeatedly from both Mr. Layton and Mr. Belden that there's plenty of snow storage opportunity around the Dow house and within the 8-foot buffer or area between the driveway and the property owner and the other area up against the building between the parking and the building. So I don't personally feel like they are meeting criteria 2, that there's no alternative available for disturbing that buffer area. So, but other than that, I am in favor of voting for this conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I am leaning in the same direction as Peter Steckler.
I would also support the motion with that condition.
Nancy Belanger has her hand up.
Nancy.
As an alternate, I can't vote, but I would support Peter's condition.
Okay, well. You certainly can make a motion to that.
I'm happy to make a motion, Mr. Chair, if you'd like.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
After reviewing the criteria for a wetlands conditional use permit, I move that the request of Phillips Exeter Academy Planning Board case number 20-12 for a conditional use permit be approved with the following conditions: that no snow storage is allowed beyond the retaining wall of the parking area.
I will second that.
Do you want to include the suggested condition of approval as proposed by the Conservation Commission?
I was going to ask that same question.
Yes, I am happy to amend my my motion to. Do I need to say that specifically, Dave?
I can read it. I can read it if you. Okay. The applicant shall provide an invasive plant management plan for the stream, wetland, and wetland buffer area to the satisfaction of the natural resource planner prior to signing the final plans.
Okay, and you go with that. Gwen, did you second?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we have a motion. You all understand the motion? Okay, let's go for the vote then.
Len, can I speak on the motion first?
Certainly, Aaron.
I'd like to hear from the applicant, if we can, regarding if we can find a less restrictive condition regarding the snow storage. I'd like to try to afford them the opportunity to make a proposal.
Okay. Mark, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was able to speak. I wasn't sure if I was open to that. So, yeah, I mean, again, I go back to allowing us to at least do minimal storage. I mean, if the idea of this was, that's an open, the retaining wall and the railing that's there. I mean, I think there is going to be some snow that would end up in that area. I understand the concerns, but I'm going back to where if you have a 6 to 8 to 10 inch snowstorm, that we're going to need to be plowing snow, and snow is going to end up in that area. I think if we could, to what Jeff Clifford and Corey's about adding some more of the silt or the core logs, whatever we're calling it, to make sure that we're not getting the sediment or the concern that you have into the wetland area. I think it is operationally important for us to try to have some sort of snow storage in that area. So I don't have a better solution other than we can definitely minimize what we use there, but I would like to have the opportunity to use it for some sort of minimal snow storage.
Okay.
Corey, would you like to add something to that? I think that's.
I think what Jeff had mentioned. I believe the concern is just that the snow melt will possibly have some sand in it. I mean, really, what we're probably looking at in large storm events is really picking off the top of the pile that may not have. That's been plowed, and I don't think that the Academy really uses a lot of sand in this area. So I don't know how much sediment we're really talking about, but we can certainly, add multiple rows of the sediment barrier just to, just for added protection. If that's the concern that there might be some sand from the snow melt that gets down into in that area. We can certainly do everything we can. Again, we want to work with the town and have everyone feel comfortable. We've really we're trying to do what we thought was the best management practice, actually the New Hampshire DES best management practice for snow storage that we were implementing in this area. But we really want, if we can do a little bit more to, appease, the town so you're comfortable, and then also provide the academy with that option that, in some of these, maybe middle events that they're not, forced to come in with, and track everything off site and move stuff around, that they can manage the site that way. So, I guess that would be our proposal, is just to try to, if that's the concern, to provide some added protection in that area, that we can, that hopefully that will satisfy people's concerns with snow storage in that area.
Maybe that's a question that for Chairperson Steckler is the concern the sediment, because then maybe operationally we can look at what our practices are, because we don't use a lot of sand. It's sometimes the salt sand mix, but mostly we use salt. And it's a more of an environmentally friendly salt, which we could share what that information is. So maybe that's possible. If you could help clarify what the concern is.
I have one other suggestion, is that possibly the motion include that we would do, if you would allow some storage there, that at the end of the year, at least for a couple of years, we provide a report. We go out and take pictures, show you what's there, show you what's happening, and provide that to the planning department to document the management of the site. And if we need to do supplemental things, I know the Academy has always been good about doing what needs to be done. So, and we've got a really good track record with stormwater management and other things like this. We've cleaned up so many things over facilities management, just made some great progress the last 15 years. So I think we can manage this, and I think we can prove it to you. And if we have to do more afterwards, we'll do that.
Pete Steckler has his hand up.
Go ahead, Dave.
Pete Steckler has his hand up.
Oh, Pete.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So maybe just to respond about concerns. I mean, it's not just about sediment or salts. It's about, that peak discharge. Mr. Belden mentioned that it is a steep slope. So that water is going to move, especially again. I mean, you look at the pile of snow that ends up, and I know you can't compare, but for example, in the Lincoln Street school parking lot, and what a spring warm rain event can do to that snow and all the runoff that comes off of it. My original suggestion at the beginning of the meeting was, is there some sort of rain garden type of depression that could maximize infiltration of that snow storage area and, sort of move it along towards that other area noted as number 5. But I think that as I try to look for the areas of black and white within our guidance for making decisions, and criteria 2 says, is there an alternative available for disturbing the buffer? We've heard from the applicant that there is. This is a good project. I don't want to stand in its way, but this is one thing where I don't think it meets the criteria. This snow storage issue. If there was a way to say in emergency situations only that you could push snow, you've exhausted all other options for snow storage and removal, you could do that. That's fine with me, but how do you sort of write that into the law of the land and the management of this property over multiple generations to come. So I'm not sure that's the best option. So I guess I'm going to leave my motion as is, and if the board doesn't go with it, then that's fine. We can reconsider. Thanks.
Jen Martell has her hand up.
Jen?
Yeah, and I just want to add, I mean, my concern, in addition to the sediments and the salt, is the, stuff that drips out of cars, oils and things like that ends up on the pavement and gets caught up in the snow. I'm actually looking at the NHDES guidelines for snow storage that were the fact sheet. And there's a picture of a snow pile, and it's pretty disgusting, the stuff that gets caught up in the snow. And my other concern is that the space being provided is just not big enough. I mean, looking at the physics, it's basically a 9-foot drop if you have a 6-foot wall and a 3-foot fence. It's probably more than a 9-foot drop because your loader's going to get above that. It's not going to make it. It's going to go further than the area allotted, and that's on a slope. I just don't think a little, the fiber roll is probably, a foot in diameter. That's not going to retain a heavy pile of snow crashing down from 10 feet on a slope. It's going to overcome that sediment wall that you're creating. And my concern is that it's very close to the wetland at that point. I just don't think, I just don't really believe that it's going to work. And I also think that given its kind of low visibility area, it's not going to be obvious to people that it's not working, that it's failing, because people aren't really going to see it. It's on the backside of a wall. So I just think there's too much opportunity for this not to work. And I think that it's, like Peter said, there's other solutions. It might require a little more work of asking, using some of the parking spaces to store snow for temporarily and then moving it off-site into the lawn area, where Gwen suggested closer to Front Street, just moving it somewhere else in the meantime. I think that would be a better solution than throwing it over the wall into a wetland.
Well, DES apparently recommends this method. So,
Well, actually, so if you look at the DES guidelines that the applicant provided, it specifically says, I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what I was trying to say earlier is it does say use a silt fence or equivalent barrier, but it should be securely placed between the snow storage area and the high water mark or top of stream bank, with care taken not to exceed the barrier with overpiling. I don't think that's possible given the size of this and the height from which it's being dropped.
Okay.
This is Corey again from Altus. Maybe, do you think that we could kind of look at this area so that the motion is not that, so that the condition of the approval is not to restrict it, but that you, upon approval of an acceptable plan provided to the board, that we could provide something, we can look at this area again, and maybe we can do some minor grading or get something in there that does not, that we can fit within the existing limits of disturbance. So we're not creating any additional impacts in the wetland area. So we're not, increasing the buffer impacts, but within our just, proposed disturbance calculations, we can try to get something in there that's maybe satisfactory to you. And maybe it is, maybe we can look at trying to get a little depression, something in there that's a little more solid, that provides a depression with some infiltration, and try to get something over there. But we can, but that way we don't have have it completely restricted by a motion that by the condition of the approval.
For what it's worth, I'm amenable to that. I just don't know what the mechanics are, so might look to Dave for how that would work.
Yeah, I mean, my knee jerk is if you're going to come back to the board with something, then you just come back to the board and, you table it until, a meeting, and then you come back. I mean, I don't really know I don't think you make a condition based on coming back. I'd never really get into that, or wouldn't suggest that.
No, I think we'd have to table and have them work on it and then bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, if that's where it's going and they're going to come back and you want to see what they're proposing, I think that's really the only way to do it. Yeah, I would recommend anyway.
Dave,
Lang, should we do a straw poll maybe?
Sure.
Well, you have a motion and a second on the floor, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I hate to jump in, but you can, you got a motion and a second, so just take the vote and see what happens.
But if the motion passes with that proposed condition, the applicant might prefer to come back versus have that result. That's why I was thinking
that's their option. If they want, under that circumstance, they could ask for a reconsideration and come back, and to ask the planning board for a change. That wasn't what I was thinking. I was responding to like making it a condition of approval that you come back, which is different than, them asking for reconsideration of a certain condition.
Or tabling.
Pete has his real hand up.
Yes, Pete.
Yeah. What exactly is the wording of the motion that we're going to maybe take a vote on? Right now, I don't know what that is.
Okay, it's maybe Dave, I will tell you, Pete. I will read it to you.
Thank you.
It is to approve the conditional use permit with two conditions. One is the condition proposed by the Conservation Commission that says the applicant shall provide an invasive plant management plan for the stream, wetland, and wetland buffer area to the satisfaction of the natural resource planner prior to signing the final plans. The second, which I believe is really the one under discussion here, is no snow shall be stored beyond the retaining wall in the parking area.
No snow shall be stored
beyond the retaining wall in the parking area. That's what I wrote down. I hope I got it right, Pete.
But that's not a question of a big pile that's getting washed away. Or at least then I don't understand what stored means.
Snow storage, you plow it.
I understand, but is that piling it there? And therefore none of the pile can go beyond that wall?
Correct. You cannot, what it means in my understanding is that it means that you cannot push snow over that edge of that retaining wall.
Snow.
You're going to have to plow it, somewhere else. You're going to have to.
No snow, not runoff from a freak rain, but no snow piled there.
Correct.
That's a little bit different though than having a runoff, which is troubling in the case of a major rain after a large pile of snow is accumulated. Okay, I think I understand now.
Yeah, I think
the first part of that motion, I gather the Academy has no problem with that. It's just the second part, or the second condition,
yes,
that is troubling them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Thank you. If you have a motion, you've got to do something with the motion that's on the table.
Yep, you do.
Is
You
that
either got to get rid of it.
Lang, I asked for additional input from the applicant and we've let them speak. It looks like they might want to speak again. Is it all right for us to let Mr. Layton speak?
Sure.
I think Jeff also was going to say something too. As far as Jeff, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just a technical point. Usually, the bigger parking lots you see the massive runoff when you have, a warm 50-degree rainstorm when there's a lot of snow. Usually it's at the bottom of the parking lot, right? And so you've got a lot of water coming off of the pavement going to this snow pile. And yes, you can exacerbate the melting of the snow in that situation. In this situation, we're capturing all the runoff from the parking lot and going into our stormwater system. This isn't going to get any extra. All it's going to be is the melt of the snow, which what happens too is that the snow gets pretty dense when you pile it like that. So it doesn't melt all that fast if you don't have that other water coming on it. It's going to be relatively dense, and it'll be the last snow pile on campus that'll probably melt every year because it's on the north side of that wall.
I say it's on the north side.
Right, so it's going to be a slow melt, I think. I just want to make that point.
So I guess my question is going to be is formality. If I would like us to, we've heard the concerns. To try to with Jeff and Corey work on this and come up with maybe a different proposed solution. But I don't want to have us to come back and have to spend another 2.5 hours of your time to go through the whole process again. So on the formality, Dave, I mean, is there if this is the only issue that is the sticking point for both parties, can we only address this issue in the future? Or do we go through this and then we just come? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the only issue, that's what they generally do. You basically, I would suggest at this point, if you're going to come back, you table it to a date certain, no renotice, you resolve it, you propose what you're going to come back and propose that issue. And it basically, you are where you left off. That's my understanding.
Is tabling in relationship to the motion that's on the floor? If there's a motion to table, does that supersede the motion, Aaron?
Well, I would think I would encourage the board, if you have a motion and they're willing to come back with something, I would withdraw. I would encourage you to withdraw the motion. I don't see any issue with that. Withdraw the motion and table it.
All right. So with that in mind, what I'd like to see is to withdraw the motion and table to another date certain to finish our work here. Because no, we don't want to start all over again. We're to this point, Mark, and we don't.
Well, the waivers have already passed.
The waivers have passed.
The only real thing is the site plan, which we could.
We got a hiccup.
Could go to
and you
site
guys
plan,
need more
but
time
usually
to
we do
work on
the CUP first.
Yeah. So,
Dave, if the motion did pass, I think it's in everyone's interest that we get through the approvals. We certainly would look to getting the CUP and site plan approval this evening if that if the board chooses it. If this is the one sticking point, would there be the option to come back to the board to amend the approval with, if we can, to do that, or is it once it's approved without?
Yes. If you wanted to move ahead and you asked the planning board and they were comfortable with that, then they could act on that motion that they had. And if the motion passed and that condition got imposed, and then they moved on, they could act on the entire application. That condition would be valid, but you could always ask for reconsideration. I would do that. I would submit a request for reconsideration within 30 days. That's what I would suggest.
So when you, on that process, then the request for reconsideration is just for that condition that we feel like should be reconsidered.
Correct. But then again, the planning board is under no obligation to honor that request, but you can ask for it. And they,
why can't we have the motion withdrawn? Who seconded it?
You can, but they just said, basically Corey just said, you know, he'd prefer not to be tabled.
Well, and I hope I'm speaking in you know for the Academy and Mark and Heather, but I do believe that I don't think it's in too many people's interest to have to come back for the approvals at another meeting. I think if we can I think that everybody would prefer to get the approvals tonight, and if we have to come back to discuss this again, then that would be the route that I think we would rather pursue.
But I agree. A word of caution: if the planning board didn't want to reconsider it, they would not be under any obligation to do so.
Yeah, Lang, that's the concern I have, is if this CUP passes with the condition, I think it's a higher threshold for the Academy to have us to reconsider that condition after we've already approved a project than it is to just finish and table and then finish the approval. But if they're pushing forward, it's their right to push forward. So
that's true.
Take a vote.
I would prefer for the motion to be withdrawn and then tabled to a date certain. But if Pete Steckler does not want to do that, then we'll take the vote.
Mr. Chair, I am happy to withdraw my motion if that's the applicant's wish, but I'm not hearing that that's their wish at the moment.
That will this person who seconded be agreeable to that? Who seconded?
That would be me, and I am agreeable to it. I agree with Peter. It sounds like they are willing to take their chance and go forward with this. And then if they don't like the outcome, to come back and have this reconsidered, which I would be completely open to that. I don't know, I mean, if they wanted to come back and present something different that they thought we would be in favor of, that would certainly be agreeable to me. So
I'm more comfortable with that.
May I, Mr. Chairman? I mean, it's obvious that it sounds like they're willing to propose something different. And with all due respect to the applicant, it's not their choice, it's the board's. I mean, you are what I would suggest you do, whatever you feel comfortable with doing. So if you want to withdraw your motion and table the application, you can do that. If you want to proceed, you can do that, but it is your decision to make.
Yeah. And
I would suggest you do whatever you felt most comfortable with.
Well, Peter, Gwen is willing to withdraw her second. Peter's willing to withdraw the motion. And the chairman would be interested in having them do that, and the motion to table till date certain to finish up our work on it.
Mr. Chair, I am happy. I withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
And also the next meeting we could be placed on is October 22nd. It's 2 weeks from tonight. We'd put you first on the agenda, just discuss this issue and move on.
Good. Is there a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table to October 22nd.
At
planning board meeting at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I'll take the vote, please. Jen?
Aye.
Aaron?
Yes.
Pete Cameron?
Yes.
Pete Steckler?
Yes.
Gwen English?
Yes.
Molly? Colin?
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes. So there we are. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I, Mr. Chairman, before you go, before you move on to the next item?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to introduce, we have, there was a new board member appointed on Monday night at the select board.
Oh.
And Mark, please forgive me if I don't pronounce your last name right, but Mark Dettori or Detour? Detour. Okay.
Yes.
So Mark Detour, and he just joined us. He has not been sworn in, so he's officially not, I would recommend he doesn't participate as an alternate this evening, but I wanted to recognize him and welcome aboard, and he will be a new alternate for our planning board moving forward.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll just be happy to watch tonight.
Okay. All right. Let's see. The hour is 20 minutes to 10. We want to move ahead with the next case. Certainly get started on it, because I think we should end at 10 o'clock according to our operation. So the application of Carbonet Builders for the subdivision of existing 13.3 parcel located at 120 Kingston Road into 4 single-family residential lots. Subject property is located in the R1 low-density residential zoning district. Tax map parcel number 101-8-1. In this case, number 20-13. And Dave, is that ready to be heard?
In my opinion, it is, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and need a motion to accept this case.
Also move.
Thank you, Pete. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We'll vote. Jen?
Oh, I didn't hear that. Did you?
Jen Martell, I'm asking.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Gwen.
I did too.
Hi.
I guess we better quit. Gwen.
The other Gwen.
And your vote, Gwen?
Yeah, aye.
Okay. Pete Cameron.
Yes.
Aaron Brown.
Yes.
Pete Steckler.
Yes.
Molly Cowan.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So Dave, can start us off, please?
Sure can, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is seeking approval for the proposed subdivision of an existing 13.3 acre parcel out on 120 Kingston Road into 4 single-family residential lots. It's in the area right where John West Road is on Kingston Road. It used to be, you come around that corner and the big red barn right on the road. It's at that location. The applicants submitted plans and supporting documents dated September 8th and are enclosed in your packets. The application plans were reviewed independently by the members of the Technical Review Committee. Kristen Murphy, also our natural resource planner, provided comments in enclosed memo dated September 17th, 2020. I forwarded on several comments as I mentioned in my memo, to the applicant's engineer, and I told you I'd provide an update. You did get an email earlier today with some responses to those. He will explain the plans, present the plans, and present the changes that were made. But there was some information that we needed, and he ended up asking for a waiver from one of them and submitted that information. The applicant met with the Heritage Commission Demolition Review Committee back in July and to discuss the proposed demolition. The committee determined that the early 20th century dairy barn that I spoke about earlier was no longer historically or culturally significant to the town of Exeter, and I included a copy of the chairman's letter for your review. As I said, they didn't originally request waivers, but they have since then, and I sent you those today. But I think Christian will go over those and the plan and any changes from the prior plan. Most of it is just a few of them were adding notes and stuff. It was rather minor information that was just requested, but I will let the applicant's engineer discuss that more fully. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good evening, Christian.
Good evening, Chairman Plummer. How are you?
The camera is yours.
Thank you very much. And I will just start by saying, yes, my right eye is closed. I had retina surgery a few weeks ago and the vision is not good. It's better to just shut it out so I don't see several of you at the same time. So as Dave said, we did receive some comments from Kristen last week and then subsequently from the planner on Friday, which required us to have Gove Environmental go out and do some additional field work and research. The large change to the plans, aside from the notes that were added from both some of Kristen's comments and some of Dave's comments, was specifically the high intensity soil survey, which you will see on the two sheets that we provided today. Jim also added along with that his wetland delineation technical report, and then a report summarizing his thoughts on the shoreline protection question, which Kristen brought up, and it was specific to, there is a small intermittent brook that runs down along, or I guess just inside the tree line on the property. The lion's share of this parcel is just a hayfield. It has been a historic hayfield. He went down and reviewed that. It is definitively intermittent, not connected to the Perkins Brook, and therefore not subject to the local shoreline protection requirements. That is the lion's share of what was changed on the plans that you received today. The surveyor, when we're confident the lot lines are good and won't be changing, we'll add the monumentation to the plans, as well as obviously get that into the ground upon a conditional approval. I assume that would be a condition of a building permit would be to get the monumentation done. The waiver that David mentioned is specific to a formal drainage study for this parcel. Essentially, this entire parcel being a hayfield that all kind of runs downhill towards the wetlands through that hayfield, you've got yourself a natural vegetated filter strip for anything that does run off. I did mention in my responses to Kristen and Dave that the developer, Tim Mason of Cabernet Builders, customarily puts stone drip edges to infiltrate the roof runoff. Any of the other impervious area that would flow through is going to be directed to vegetative areas as is cited as required by the code. And I guess the final piece of the puzzle is Kristen made comments specific to a hydrogeologic study, and as the code reads, it says 4 lots or greater within the district would require a hydrogeo study. And in fact, 2 of the lots, the resultant lots, are completely outside the Aquifer Protection District. And there is essentially 1 new lot being created within the Aquifer Protection Zone. And I'll address any other questions you have, but we did some additional test pits, we did some preliminary test pits that did not meet the 24-inch seasonal high water table. And that is why the septics for Lot 2 and the replacement area for Lot 1 happen to be within the zone. And that code does say, if feasible, they would prefer to see the septic systems out of the Aquifer Protection District. But to that end as well, I know that Mr. Mason typically uses enviroseptic septic fields, and those basically the treatment takes place prior to the water actually exiting the bed, and it is a much higher quality effluent after it's been treated. I don't think there's any concern for the aquifer in this location. And if you look at the plans, the topography would suggest that we are on the edge of the end of the aquifer, and I'm assuming the groundwater is going to be running away from it, not into it. And with that, I'll address any questions that anyone may have. I'll address more thoroughly any of the points that were in the comments from Dave or Kristen, and I would be happy to read the waiver into my criteria for the waiver into the record when we get there.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? From the board?
Hold on, there is a board. One of the public, we haven't opened the public meeting yet, but I see your attendee. I see there's a hand up. We will get to, it went down. There was a hand up, but we will get to the attendees wishing to speak in public opinion once the board has asked a questions. Gwen has her hand up.
Okay, Gwen.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm on. Christian, do you have an idea of where a driveway would be placed for lot 2? And I ask that because I know this is on a pretty tight corner, and I'm concerned about the sight distance, kind of from the corner to the edge of that property. It's about 160 feet, and the frontage is 150 feet. So I'm just curious where you have the placement of a driveway in mind.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, request to share screen, please, so I can depict this for Gwen. Gwen, excuse me.
Yes. We love screen.
Find the correct plan here. Everything's difficult with one eyeball. There we go. Okay, are you all seeing that?
Yes, in a minute. There we go. Yep.
All right, let me zoom into the area. In fact, Gwen, I'm glad you brought that question up because we had a conversation with the owner and developer today and believe that it is his preference to actually bring the driveway off this slight bit of frontage on John West Road as opposed to off Kingston Road. Not really for a sight distance issue because I believe that we meet the 400 feet in both directions, but just he feels that, if folks have children of a young age or, even teenagers, they're probably not going to want to bring their driveway in off Kingston Road just due to the volume of traffic and the speed the traffic drives on that road. So that is our current contemplation, is that it would likely come down this little strip of land that connects to John West right here.
Looks like a good solution.
I'm a lot more comfortable with that. I question whether if that 400-foot sight distance could be met if it did come off Kingston Road, but I would be much more comfortable with it coming off John West Road.
Yeah, and that's the plan as I understand it.
Okay.
That could be a condition of approval.
And real quickly, if the septic system, because of the soils, can't be on lot 2, is that really the only place that it could be?
Yeah, you can see we did some additional test pitting down here. All these numbered pits did not meet the 24-inch to water table. Okay. We are going to do some more investigation out here, but I think lot 1, I am almost positive that the existing system is within the district for the existing house and barn. And very likely, you start going down this slope, the soils are definitely not going to improve, but I do understand that we are going to try and do a little more excavation out there and see if we can find some suitable area outside the district. But again, if we can't get the pits to pass, then it is not feasible, and that's, the code allows for that.
Mr. Chair, can I ask another, two more questions? Is lot 1, the house, and I assume that's a garage, those are staying, nothing's changing on, other than the removal of another structure that stays as it is?
It's my understanding that those are either coming down or possibly down as we speak.
Oh, the house and really?
They were not salvageable. But again, the intent would be to rebuild this in the same location. I understand this barn or outbuilding is gone as well.
Yeah, I think that one is.
And the big barn
last weekend.
The big barn that was nearly on the pavement is been taken down.
Okay. And then my last quick question is, where is the intermittent stream?
Oh.
If you look at Jim Gove's, let me close this out, and I will have to find the other plan because it's in the back.
Yeah.
Sheet 4, there we go. Just a second, and I'll zoom this up a little bit here. So you can see the photographs and the aerials that Jim Gove put together in his response or his memo on that. And essentially, evidently, the stream runs just inside the woodland here. I'm assuming outlets to this culvert. So obviously a meander somewhere through there. And I even took the tree line here, the edge of the trees, and offset that 300 feet. And it does not even come up into the developable part of the lot. So it's really kind of a moot point either way.
Okay. And Perkins Brook doesn't even come to that side of John West Road, is that
No,
right?
exactly. And that's what Jim defines and details in his report.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else?
Oh, Gwen, is that still a leftover or are you?
Oh. Sorry about that.
Okay. Anybody in the public that would like to ask a question? Dave?
There's one hand up. Oh, two hands up. There is Aaron Dibble has his hand up.
Aaron Dibble. Good evening, Aaron. You must be in town.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can't see you.
I'm having some serious computer problems, so please forgive me. That obnoxious 701 number is me. So it's good to see you and to hear your voice, Mr. Plummer. I have a little bit of reverb, so I'm going to try and take one set of headphones off here. My biggest concern with this property is not the construction plan itself, but the active construction itself. In the multiple lives I've lived since communicating with you, one of those lives has been in concrete, and my concern is that wetland there does not move water quickly, and there's been some discussion, all of which I know nothing about, with regards to the environmental portion. Mr. Smith, my condolences on your eye. I've gone through something very similar lately.
Thank you.
So my concern is what steps are in the plans for making sure that there's no corruption of those wet areas during construction?
Would you like me to address that, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Okay. Essentially, Aaron, what takes place is when we get to a formal septic design, which means we actually have a building footprint, we know what house a particular buyer of a given lot is going to want to have on it. We design that, and then from that point, we site the lot, we site the septic system, we do all the design, we depict and delineate all the erosion control measures, which I would assume on a hayfield like this, you know, silt fence would work fine, but very likely the silt socks or the wood chip filled fiber logs work very, very well in these situations. Obviously, we're not going to get anywhere near the 75-foot building setback. So all of that would be set 75 feet away from the wetlands. And the thing about those more modern erosion control measures is they allow water to go through, but they filter sediment out and keep it on the uphill side of this feature itself, the sediment prevention feature itself.
So you're not worried about the post construction concrete water waste getting further down that slope?
No, absolutely not, because that's taken care of either in a waste pit, if there's excess concrete, or they simply drive it away in the truck.
Okay. Second concern, which was fantastically brought up by you, with the access road being potentially on John West. I managed to survive a lifetime of my teenage back and forth going up Kingston Road there and rounding that turn by the barn. That is an extremely bad spot for a entrance to 4 houses. That would be a potential death trap and an accident waiting to happen for a family. So my suggestion to the board is to potentially make that a consideration for acceptance, to have the access road be on John West rather than on Kingston. There have been, I hope not recently, but when I was a youth, there have been deaths on that corner, some just self-inflicted. Never mind potentially adding an extra access to a family property there.
Yeah, and that's the plan. 3 of the new homes, or all of the new homes, will be. The intention is to take their drive off John West Road, and the singular drive that would remain is the drive that exists to the existing house.
Excellent. I wouldn't have any issue that that original drive is further enough down from the corner, that there's enough view there coming around that corner. But anything closer than that would be terribly problematic. That's all I have. Appreciate you taking the time to hear me, and sorry to be an annoyance early with my early call in.
It's all right. Anybody else, Dave? You said another public hand?
Well, yeah, but that was Aaron as well.
Oh, okay, fine.
He was that Nebraska number with the hand up early.
Yeah, right.
And it kept disappearing. Now it's gone. So
yeah,
there is no one else. None of the other attendees have their hand up at the moment. If you'd like to speak, use the raise hand function.
Anything else the board would like to discuss? You want to move to the waiver?
Gwen English has her hand up.
Gwen.
Are there any large trees on this property that need to be noted, or is it all field?
It's all field. Yeah, okay. The area of development is completely hayfield.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I asked him that, and there's not going to be any disturbance of any trees. I asked him to label the significant trees if there were any, and
right.
Or not.
Instead, we added a note stating that there are none.
Okay. Hard to see behind the barn when it was still there. Yes. I wasn't sure. Okay, thanks.
All right. Where are we with the waiver, Dave?
What do you mean, where are we at with it? He's requested it.
Okay, so you want to walk through the waiver for us? Kirsten,
Absolutely. Okay, so it reads, members of the board, the applicant's proposing to subdivide the referenced parcel into 4 residential lots. We respectfully request a waiver to section 7.9 that requires a formal drainage analysis for any proposed subdivision due to the cumulative disturbance area of greater than 10,000 square feet. We feel that the waiver is justified as there will be no detrimental result to public safety, health, or welfare, or be injurious to other properties in the area. The topography of this parcel essentially conveys stormwater to a large wetland matrix toward the south end of the parcel. The developers will provide stone drip edges for all new roof runoff, infiltration, no new roadway is proposed, and there will be no deforestation as the development is in a historic hayfield. Finally, the size of the overall subcatchment, in other words, the land draining to the analysis point, which would be the little intermittent stream, is very large compared to the area of disturbance impervious resulting from the 3-lot construction. Based on this, we feel a drainage analysis would not provide the board with any additional information with which to evaluate the proposal and would result in an unnecessary hardship to the owner and developer. The waiver maintains the spirit and intent of the regulation as the proposed pertinent infiltration measures and preservation of roughly 63% of the parcel from disturbance is consistent with the intent cited in the section of the regulations. The waiver would not in any manner vary the provisions of the zoning ordinance or the master plan.
Okay, any questions about that?
So I'm just curious about this waiver request related to what I presume is going to be a culvert that drains from west to east underneath John West Road, and what the current size and capacity of that culvert is to convey water underneath the road. And given that that's town infrastructure, if there's considerations for additional drainage running off of this site that could compromise that existing structure, if assuming I understand the layout and the flow of water here, which I'm not sure I do completely. So would love your response to that. Thank you.
Yeah, that culvert, I'm looking at it on the surveyor's plan, his existing conditions plan, and he does not give us a material nor a size. Let me check on the recordable sheet. Scrolling up here, no, it simply says culvert. But as far as I'm aware, Peter, there is no existing issue with that culvert. And again, the area draining to that culvert is so large that 3 additional houses there, particularly when you're taking all of the roof runoff and putting it into the ground, is simply going to be in the background noise and would very likely have 0 impact to that thing.
So the stormwater's coming off the houses is being managed right at the side of the house.
Stone trenches right next to the foundations, yes.
Stone trenches, okay. That's an acceptable water management method.
Are you asking me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Extremely common. Extremely common. Yes.
Yep.
If I may, Mr. Chair, follow up on that. I mean, it's not just the impervious surfaces associated with roofs and driveways, but also assuming there's lawns with more compacted soils than what are out there now. I guess, I'd be hesitant given that we don't understand what the existing drainage structure that the town is responsible for maintaining, having no understanding of what that structure is, if it's at or near capacity currently, and that we may be, even if it's just a little bit more water, but stressing that system, that ultimately the taxpayers may be on the hook to address. I guess it's hard for me to, and I don't want to stand in the way of this project, but I think it's a concern for me if we don't understand what our town infrastructure is there, and if this project could have an impact on that, and we won't know because we're not doing a drainage analysis.
Dave, I got a question based on our little workshop yesterday about stormwater and all that good stuff. And I understand that all of the such culverts in Exeter are known and have been judged as to their capacity. And
all of them, but some of them.
Okay.
I don't know if this one was one of those.
Because I know what
I'd have to look. I mean, all I know is I send the plans over to DPW. They review the plans. That's something that, is within their purview to look at. And
right. Okay.
Town's infrastructure. Jen Mates, assistant engineer, didn't have any comments. But I didn't have a discussion with her about that particular culvert. So I could definitely ask her that.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may follow up as well, that's what I was going to say as well, is that, DPW, the assistant engineer for the town, reviewed the plan. And I mean, I think we need to think about this in realistic terms. That culvert is obviously sized such that when we have inundating rains and spring thaw, it conveys the water through that intermittent stream, which would be flowing at that time of the year. And I have heard no occurrences of it failing, or having any overtopping John West Road issues. And the very minor, impact that these three homes are going to have on the overall subcatchment of that, it's just going to be in the background noise.
Okay. Well, would somebody like to make a motion, and we can vote and see if we like it or don't like it? Let's see. Did you have such a motion prepared, Dave?
No, because as I mentioned in my memo, the applicant has not requested any waivers, but some may be forthcoming depending upon my discussion with the engineer. I didn't know if he would supply the information or request the waiver, and they chose to request the waiver. So, I mean, you could use, really any of the waiver motions in the prior memo and just fill in the section and the name. But if someone's so inclined to make that motion, I can suggest it.
Okay. Aaron?
Lang, I'm going to disappoint you for a second because I'm not ready to make a motion, but I wanted to discuss something about the plan. I've been on this board long enough to remember when minor subdivisions like this would come in front of us. We haven't seen a lot of smaller ones lately. It seems like we've been doing bigger projects.
You noticed that, huh?
Yeah. But we used to require rain gardens in the plans. I recall an application where it was a one lot subdivision required a rain garden, and it was 900 feet from wetland. And I thought it was a crazy requirement, but we did require it. And I don't think it's a big thing in a landscape plan to do it. Christian, is that something you guys could address at all?
I'm sure it could be done, Aaron, but I think that the infiltration from the stone drip edges is going to collect and get more water into the ground more quickly than a rain garden. And the thing that's come out with the bioretention ponds and the rain gardens is that what tends to happen if those are actually proposed to be planted with hydrophytic vegetation, like was originally the way they were all designed. Once everybody walks away, the homeowner mows them. So now alteration of terrain prefers that you actually, instead of put bark mulch and plantings in them, they would just as soon see them loamed and seeded so that they look like lawn area, so that they can be mowed without being detrimental to the filtration media.
So you think the design, the roof type design, and roof water management system you're already proposing is a better alternative?
I do. I mean, if we did that and put in, depressions, which that basically all they would look like, they'd have 12 or 18 inches of biomixed soil in them. Below that, it would be basically a belt and suspenders approach.
Yeah, I just think we want to be in the habit of making sure we address that somewhere in a condition if we get that far. Because I think it is a good practice, and I don't think it's a massive requirement. Still looking for a motion.
Well, we need a motion for this, or we need a motion to table. It's 10:15. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I'm okay making a motion to table this, just to double check with the DPW staff about any concerns about the structure under John West Road.
Okay.
But again, I don't want to stand in the way of others moving forward tonight.
And if you do table it, I would recommend you table it to the November 12th meeting, the October 22nd meeting, 2 weeks from today. We already tabled PEA, and there's already several items on that agenda. So I don't think that will work. I would recommend the November 12th meeting at 7 p.m.
Is that your motion, Peter?
I guess before I move that, I'll test it with the rest of the board and see if, I don't know, or I can just make it and you can vote it down. So moved, tabling planning board case number 20-13 to November 12th at 7 p.m.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jen. So let's vote. Pete Cameron?
Yes.
Aaron Brown?
Yes.
Peter Steckler?
Yes.
Jen Martell?
Yes.
Molly Cowan?
Yes.
Gwen English?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So be it. Thank you, Christian. We'll see you next month.
Thank you very much. Hopefully I'll have two eyes open that night.
Okay.
Take care, you guys.
Either that or wear a pirate patch, Christian.
Yeah, see, I wasn't going down that road. It's too close to Halloween. You guys would have thought I was a nut. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Okay. I've added another item under other business. Not another item, but I've added an item for that. And it goes a little bit along with the lines of what Aaron was talking about in terms of what we used to do with some situations like that. But Glenn had concern about getting information after we received the packet and having probably planned and digested what we did on that time schedule, and something comes in at the last minute. So it kind of catches us off guard. And that's happened over several cases, I believe. So I thought we might talk about that with the board. Are we comfortable with that? Or back to the days when we would say the case is not ready to be heard until everything's here, in the expected time frame, or not. So I didn't want to, it is 10:20, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I thought we'd just touch base on it and see what the comfort level is of the board. Because we've received several of these, so we'll kind of start with Rose Farm. We got stacks of stuff. And
it's a challenge, Lang, because the cases aren't stagnant. Everything's fluid, and when we're in the middle of a hearing, we're getting ready to hear a case.
Yes.
If people don't give stuff to the planning department prior to the meeting, they have the right to bring it to the meeting. So I'm not sure if saying, okay, you didn't give it to us 7 days ahead of time really gains our board much. Obviously, it makes it hard to truly digest, but it's maybe a little better than if they just throw it to us at 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock that night during the live portion of the case. So it's a dilemma.
I mean, we could always say on a case-by-case basis, we haven't been able to digest this, we don't feel comfortable acting on it, or we don't feel comfortable discussing this, and at that point, we can decide to table it. But I feel like it would be hard to, like Aaron said, it is a fluid process, and I know like TRC comments are coming back, and after the packet goes out sometimes, and there's things happening, so you don't want to be too rigid because that could just like mess up the whole schedule.
Yeah. Well, many times Dave says in his notes, he'll have the answer for us at the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just people's schedules are always such deadlines are like, and then they submit the day I write my memo, and I don't have the time to absorb it all to write the memo. And then when I do, I see that they need something and I let them know that. And like that was the case on this one. I let them know that, last week, and then I have to write the memo, and then they supply it this morning, and I give it to the board because I know that, it needs to be supplied, or it should be supplied.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Jen said, that's what I feel. If you're not comfortable, and it's just don't feel, just don't take action. Just, talk about what you want to talk about or what you can talk about, and then table it to digest the additional information.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad to have your feedback. I think today I just, I'd spent a good part of the week, and as I often do, trying to sift through all the material, and I don't really like waiting until the last minute because that makes me nervous that I'm not going to get through the packet. And then to have gotten through everything and to the point where I'm feeling comfortable with the materials that we've been given. And then sometimes it's 3:00 in the afternoon. I go to check my email real quickly, and bam, there's 3 or 4 possibly emails from Barb with attachments on updates for a meeting. And I agree with you. If we're not comfortable with it, we just express that at the meeting itself, but I think I just reached a point today where I just thought, oh my gosh, is everything I've done sort of useless now because there's new material, new updates, and makes me feel unprepared when I get to the meeting, because I'm sure that there's information in those attachments that will be very helpful as we review an application. But I don't have time often. I mostly don't have time to do that the day of or the afternoon of a planning board meeting. And I don't know I don't have an answer. I just kind of was curious to know what other members of the board were thinking and feeling, or if they had shared those frustrations or not. But I don't know.
I agree with you. I think it is frustrating. But I think it's unfortunately the nature of the beast a little bit, because they have the right to bring stuff to us even at the meeting. So I know for me personally, I try to manage my time expecting that. We're going to have a couple last minute things coming in, and I try to work my own personal schedule if possible to leave some slack time prior to the meetings to review what I expect to be new material. And just also scan the application again. I try to get done ahead of time as well, and then a little more that day, and then figuring something new is going to hit you either at the meeting or within a couple hours of it. It seems to be the habit now, doesn't it? It does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, okay. That's good. I think we've had a little chat. We pretty much agree on that. Yeah. It's part of those changes, I guess. Any town planner items, Mr. Sharples?
Just one real brief. I think I told everyone the planning board about the project that I was exploring a solar array development on the old Crossroad landfill, closed landfill. Yeah. Well, I went to the select board Monday night to see if they had any objection to issuing a request for proposals to see if there, what interest there is from solar array developers to actually do it. See if it's feasible, and then, take the next step further down the road. And they were supportive of that. So I'll be issuing the RFP probably tomorrow. Well, no, probably Monday, because Russ comes back Monday just to get his blessing on the final draft before issuing it. And then we'll go from there. So just wanted to update you on that use of that land out there. And Pete Steckler has his hand up.
Hey, Pete.
What?
Sorry, I think I clicked on.
I didn't know which one.
I accidentally put my hands up. Sorry.
Okay, now Pete's got it down. Nancy has it up.
Okay, Nancy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll make it quick. We just tabled something to November 12th. We meet every 2 weeks. Have I missed something in our meeting schedule? This is the 8th. The next one's the 22nd.
You don't meet every 2 weeks. You meet twice.
Yeah. I have it as automatically every 2 weeks in my calendar. Okay, that's what I missed.
Second and fourth.
Second and fourth Thursday of the month, except when it falls on a holiday. There are some switching around Thanksgiving and so forth, but it's the second and fourth Thursday of the month generally.
All this time, it's just worked out that way. Okay, thank you very much.
We're meeting every 2 weeks, Nancy.
Yeah.
Here's the other trick, and Mark, you should do this too. Ask Barbara to give you the calendar. She has an all board calendar that shows you who meets when.
No, will do. Thanks.
We'll get them set up with a welcome packet and so forth, ordinances so we'll take care of it.
All right.
Looking for a motion to adjourn, Lon?
Oh, absolutely. I thought.
So moved.
You got 2 minutes. Okay. Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay. I will assume that everybody votes yay, so I'll consider us completed, and we'll see you on the 22nd. Thank you so much for your time. and you put in, and your good positive attitudes and concern for the developers and trying to get the darn pipes the right size and all those kinds of things. So this is what I've always enjoyed about this board. Just try to cross the T's and dot the I's and get the work done, along with a marvelous town planner, by the way. And a heck of a gal in the office, Barbara. Yeah. So enjoy.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Nancy Belanger.
Yes.